Hokage I can fully level up with one click. Chapter 221-240. Chapter 221 _ It seems to be the only way to exterminate. Kill. The sound of shouting and killing sounded like a thunderous drum. The rolling murderous aura surged out of every Zutori clan, turning the dead forest in the middle of the night into a battlefield in an instant. Yahiko and the others standing on the periphery were obviously ignored by the people of the Taketori clan. In their eyes, now there is only Uchiha Chinyu, the enemy. The bones are pierced, and one after another emerges from the people of the Bamboo clan, giving people the feeling of not only madness, but also a terrifying fighting posture. Seeing the Bamboo clan members attacking like locusts, Chinyu sighed helplessly. It seems that the negotiation failed. Since this is a life and death battle and a battle of honor for your crazy clan, the choice is between me and you, so just let you exterminate your clan. A small voice fell in his ears like a god of death urging his life. The blood moon-like Nine-Tomo Sharingan turned around in vain, and the pupil power, which was full of calamity, exploded like a volcanic eruption. The people of the Bamboo clan, who were rushing in, were directly swept away by this air wave. The tens of meters of huge Susanoo was condensed, and the three Shira faces instantly opened their blood-colored eyes, and the 6 arms flipped down, and the blade made of Amaterasu's black flame was instantly unsheathed. Together with the dark flames, the whole world seems to be swept by a fiery hurricane. The Bamboo Tori clansmen, who were thrown away, looked stagnant, and before they could stand firm, they saw a 10-meter-long black flame slashing across the sky. Looking at the rapidly expanding attack in their pupils, they had no way to hide. In a hurry, they could only raise the bone knife in their hands, while frantically urging Shikatsumiku, Dead Bone Pulse, to cover their bodies with a layer of bone helmet armor. Defense. As fighting ninjas of the Bamboo clan, they still have an inexplicable confidence in their own defense methods due to their years of life and death trials. As long as they can resist this blow, they will continue to shoot violently. In their crazy thinking, no matter how powerful the enemy is, under the absolute number and strong defense, they will definitely be consumed to death. It is precisely because of this that their family can stand out in the village of Kurigakure, known as the Blood Fog, and become the most frightening madman family. However, just as this thought came into my mind, the next moment the crisp sound of fabric tearing came out. The moment when the 3 black flames condensed blades swept across the sky. Wherever they passed along the way, whether it was a person or the defense they had high hopes for, it felt like a piece of paper, cut in half in an instant. PFF'd. Blood splashed, 3 knives came out, ghost knives opened. No matter how crazy you move, you can't escape death. The blood splattered all over the sky, and the corpse that was entangled in black flames and instantly covered, smashed to the ground heavily, shaking everyone's nerves. Even the idea of the so-called Mad Clan, not afraid of death, was shaken a little. Kill, let me continue, this kind of attack is simply unsustainable for him. Bamboo Torifung roared. Kimimaro, don't do it now, how long will it take? Kimimaro, who had been hovering in the attack circle, the last trace of hesitation on his face disappeared. The killer idea that has been instilled for many years makes him just stick to one idea in his mind and absolutely obey the order. Yuhi dots on his forehead spread out mysterious patterns like a spider web. At the same time, his hands quickly flipped under the hand seal and slammed directly to the ground. Shikatsumiku, Dead Bone Pulse, Dance of Early Jew. Boom. The dense white bones were inserted directly into the ground in Kimimaro's body. The next moment, Susanoo made bursts of ground rumblings within a radius of 100 meters. The expressions of Yahiko and the others changed. Before they had time to think about it, they grabbed Conan and the 3 wounded and quickly retreated. The moment he stepped on the tree trunk, one after another, the white bones, like soil cones, shot out from the soil. The speed and number were so fast that they were densely packed, filling the earth with a radius of 100 meters. Susanoo, standing on the spot, was directly stabbed by countless bone spears. Boom! The rolling sound of collision echoed, and under the dust, one could vaguely see a slight crack on the surface of Susanoo. This scene not only surprised Yahiko and others, but even Uchiha Chinyu was stunned for a moment, and a satisfied smile appeared on the corner of his lips. As expected of the person I liked, he barely met my selection criteria. However, I hope you can survive the next blow. The voice fell, and a violent chakra surged out of Chinyu's body, full of negative emotional fluctuations, which made people's complexions change dramatically. Yuhi's tail beast coat was covered, a thunderous roar came out. Roar! The huge body appeared at Chinyu's feet without warning. The cyan scales, the hideous face, and the three flying giant tails suddenly swung down, and the bone spears around them were instantly broken by the waist. As soon as the three tails appeared, without any hesitation, under the bluff of blood, the chakra full of destructive power gathered in the mouth crazily. Feeling this death-like aura, the bamboo clan who had planned to attack suddenly stopped abruptly. The next moment, before I had time to think about it, I frantically retreated. Goodbye. Chinyu glanced lightly. The accumulated tailed beast bomb spit out in an instant. The air along the way, as if at this moment, was directly penetrated, and ripples were stirred along the way. In the future, the speed of the first arrival instantly appeared in front of Zhu Qifengqi and others. Our bamboo clan will not be defeated, everyone will defend me and kill him. Shikatsumyaku, dead bone pulse, bone shield. Bamboo fever roared like crazy. The clansmen who had escaped stopped one after another. For orders, they obeyed from the bottom of their hearts, even at the cost of death. With Kimimaro, the power of their bloodline may be very thin, but when dozens of people gather together, the huge power formed instantly condenses a bone shield dozens of meters high. However, in the face of the tailed beast weapon that was difficult for even Ninja Village to control, but was easily liberated by Chinyu with all his strength, this seemingly indestructible bone shield shattered in the next moment. Boom! The billowing blast wave rolled back like a hurricane. The surrounding trees, the earth, the rocky mountains, everything. As if passed by countless pairs of invisible claws, trees were overturned, rocks were shattered, and the earth became devastated. After more than half a minute, everything returned to calm, and a huge deep pit appeared in the area of 10,000 meters. Everything around was completely razed to the ground. Uchiha Chinyu and Sanwei, who were shrouded under Susanoo, stood quietly in place. As for the bamboo clan who were trying to defend, they have long since disappeared. If you have to look for it, there are still some broken bones on the ground, proving their existence. Chapter 222-100 of your corpses can't stop me. In the ruins thousands of meters away from the battlefield, under a shattered rock, there was some loose soil. The next moment, the covered rock was kicked away, revealing a very embarrassed cheek. However, the pair of eyes that exuded a strange smell made people pay attention. Nagato, what's going on outside? Yahiko squeezed out. At the beginning, when Kimimaro made a big move, they chose to retreat. However, in the face of Chinyu's sudden release of three tails and tailed beast bomb's attack, the speed of the retreat was obviously not up to speed. If it weren't for the critical moment, Nagato suddenly acted like a magic spell, displaying a powerful Doden Earth-style technique to form a 10-layered Earth-style wall. I am afraid there is no way to resist the aftermath of this tailed beast bomb attack. However, even with these 10 layers of defense, they were almost buried alive. When they squeezed out of the cave and watched the scene of being razed to the ground, their pupils shrank and their scalps numb. At this moment, they realized that the mission of escorting Jinchuriki, Column Force this time was the beginning of a powerful weapon for the Kingdom of Thunder. Is this the power of the tailed beast? Shangshan turned pale, grabbed Yahiko's shoulder, and hurriedly asked, "Isn't that person you brought back reinforcements from a Megakure village?" "Yahiko, you don't lie to me, what the hell is going on?" Looking at Shangshan, who was a little hysterical, Yahiko lowered his head silently, and then said with a bitter expression, "Uncle Shangshan, you should also see the identity of that guy. Our request for help, Hanzo of the Salamander has long since refused, and met Konoha missing Nin, the blood-colored Asura. Originally, I just wanted to disrupt the enemy's audiovisual and suspected that the traitor was from within the organization, so I declared Uchiha Chinyu and Pakura to be the support of the Megakure village, intending to attract the opponent's sniping, and then secretly transferred the escort Jinchuiki column force. But it didn't occur to me that the mole was not in Akatsuki." The slightly elusive voice made Shangshan stunned. He was kept in the dark at first, but he was able to become the backbone of Akatsuki, and at the moment when Yahiko fully revealed it, there was already speculation. With a complicated expression, after changing one after another, he clasped his right hand tightly on Yahiko's shoulder, bit Kiba and said, "Yahiko, tell me, the person who betrayed us is not Hanzo-sama, hurry up and tell me." The hysterical roar made Yahiko and Nagato pale, and their bodies trembled slightly, but they couldn't speak. From the very beginning, when they met Chinyu and heard the strange words of being sold and helping to count money, they still held respect for Hanzo of the Salamander in a Megakure village. In their eyes, the village of a Megakure was able to stand still in successive battles. Everything is the effort of Hanzo of the Salamander. Their Akatsuki, but also because of his tolerance and support, was able to get to this point. However, now all kinds of speculation, after the appearance of Uchiha Chinyu, have pointed to this person whom they respect. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, the Bamboo Tori clan would have seen through their tricks and ambushed on the way they had to go. They also absolutely do not want to believe that all this is the truth in front of them. "This time, he saved us again," Conan said hesitantly. Although the tailed beast bomb just now caused an explosion, it almost buried them alive. However, Conan knew very well that if Chinyu hadn't acted, they would not only have failed their mission, but they would have even lost their lives. Yahiko and Nagato fell silent again, opened their lips, and when they wanted to say something, a figure descended from the sky. Seeing the sudden appearance of Chinyu, Yahiko, Nagato, and Shangshan also tightened their nerves, showing a hint of vigilance. After seeing the powerful strength of Uchiha Chinyu with their own eyes, they were worried that they would be killed. After all, they were watching. The geniuses of the Bamboo family, who had been highly valued by Chinyu a moment ago, were also not given preferential treatment under the tailed beast bomb attack. Hey, no wonder everyone is unscathed. It turns out that you activated Rinnegan. Chinyu fell on Conan's side and was the first to notice the change in Nagato. In the original work, in order to realize his own resurrection plan, Uchiha Madara discovered that Nagato was the identity of the Uzumaki family, but he dug his eyes in advance and secretly exchanged it for Nagato. However, he never imagined that a Uchiha Chinyu would kill him in the middle of nowhere. Rinnegan. Shangshan's expression was stagnant, and when he saw Nagato's change, his face changed drastically. This is the legendary pupil technique, only the 6 Paths Immortals have it. Shangshan is a wandering ninja born in the Land of Thunder in the 5 Kingdoms, and the legend of the 6 Paths Immortal is widely circulated among ninjas. Although I don't know what it does, it's enough to know that this pair of eyes is awesome. However, in the face of this bloodline activation, Yahiko's nerves tightened. He hurriedly stopped in front of Nagato, and said vigilantly, "Uchiha Chinyu, I thank you many times for your help, but if I want to rob Nagato's Rinnegan, I won't obey unless I step on my corpse." In the ninja world, Kekkei Genkei is the only thing that cannot be copied at the same time. But a pair of eyes with amazing abilities are different. For example, in the village of Kurigakure, he sees the blue of Byakugan, and in the Third Ninja War, he also made great achievements, which shocked the world. But the most interesting thing comes from the coveting of the pupil technique. And from the past dynasties, Byakugan and Sharingan are things that many big powers are eyeing. This led to the emergence of the main clan and the division of the Hyuga family, as well as the custom of the Uchiha family swearing to destroy their eyes. Now that Nagato has activated the legendary Rinnegan, for Uchiha Chinyu, who also owns Sharingan, there should be a fatal temptation. Step on your corpse. Chinyu rolled his eyes and said, if I really want it, even 100 of your corpses won't be able to stop me. Rinnegan is rare, but that doesn't mean I'm not. I'm here to ask Nagato to do one thing for me. Facing Chinyu's contempt, Yahiko's cheeks twitched, but after seeing Chinyu's strength with his own eyes, he could not refute it. The only thing that made him feel fortunate was that Chinyu did not continue to covet Rinnegan after he mentioned it a little. Moreover, saying that doesn't mean I don't have it, it makes them extremely suspicious that Chinyu is still hiding. Thinking of this, in the face of Chinyu's request, Yahiko became more solemn. Yahiko, get out of the way, I'm afraid he already knew about my possession of Rinnegan. Nagato said suddenly. This reminded others that Chinyu saw Nagato's indifference just now, and what he said. After hesitating for a while, Nagato said, no matter what your purpose is, in order to thank you for your life-saving grace, and to draw a clear line with you, I will agree to any request you make. Chapter 223 What else do you know? The weak are hypocritical. Chinfeng rolled his eyes and said, now that you have awakened Rinnegan, Kagura's mind should have also been boosted. I want you to help me find that skeleton kid. Rinnegan's awakening means that it is completely compatible with Nagato's immortal body, and to a certain extent, it can increase the sensing range and sensitivity of Kagura's mind and eyes, one of the two unique talents of the Uzumaki family. You want to find him, why didn't you just take it easy? Yahiko was stunned. When I think of the tailed beast bomb displayed by the three tails, it is astonishingly destructive, and the horse is aimed at exterminating the family. Cough cough, after all, it's the person I'm in love with. This is a trial. Even if he really dies, let's help him pick up bones. Chinyu coughed and touched the tip of his nose. What's more, I believe him life is hard. When Yahiko and the others heard the words, their expressions couldn't help but stagnate. According to Chinyu, if you tell them one day, I have a crush on you. This is the beginning of a nightmare. Okay, the movement here is too loud. Nagato, you should quickly sense, where is the kid from the Bamboo Clan, so hurry up and leave this place of right and wrong. Yahiko reminded. What else is there to investigate? In the face of the attack just now, I'm afraid it's already been smashed into slag. You're not a capable person. Nagato snorted coldly. Thinking of the fact that he was beaten by the Bamboo Clan and was unable to fight back, his face couldn't stop him. Feeling Yahiko's urging gaze, Nagato no longer delayed, his hands clasped together suddenly, and the powerful chakra roared on Nagato's body. Delightful eyes. As the most powerful sensory ninjutsu of the Uzumaki family, driven by the thick chakra of Sage Body, it instantly covers a range of 10,000 meters. Nagato just closed his eyes, and the next moment he opened them. He's at our feet. Nagato let out a hurried cry, and quickly wanted to withdraw and retreat. Boom. One after another, bone spears as thin as spears broke out of the ground, and went straight to the faces of everyone. The violent scene shook everyone's nerves. But in the face of this close attack, there is absolutely no way to hide. Hum. The sound of the sonic boom in the air stopped abruptly. Looking at the rapidly expanding bone spear in the pupil, it stopped abruptly 3 inches away from the front door. The people present, except Chinyu, fell heavily on the ground as if they were all out of strength, gasping for breath. What's going on here? Yahiko looked at the bone spear with lingering fears. The violent blow just now was enough to kill them easily. Thinking of Nagato's contemptuous words, Akatsuki and the others' cheeks could not help but heat up. He happened to be within the range of my surgery, and launched the demonic illusion that was buried in advance. This time you owe me another favor. Chinyu patted Nagato's shoulder with a smile. Press the backhand on the ground, close your eyes slightly to perceive, and press it suddenly. Doden, Earth-style, quicksand river. The surrounding ground was flowing like yellow sand, and following the bone spears, deep pits were formed quickly, exposing Kimamaro's slender body more than 10 meters below. I saw that the white bone armor on his body had already been shattered, and many skins were seeping blood. The bone spear that attacked just now was obviously pierced through Kimamaro's body. However, Kimamaro's eyes are flickering now, and the shape of the 9-tomo Sharingan is reflected in the depths of his pupils. The whole person stood there like a sculpture, obviously trapped in the demonic illusion space, unable to get out. Is this the demonic illusion of the Uchiha clan? Nagato's face changed slightly. I listened to the words on the battlefield before, the Uchiha clan, the instant Shisui demonic illusion unparalleled. Having said that, Nagato couldn't spit out what Nagato said to his mouth. He had thousands of reluctance, but after this battle, he had to admit that Uchiha Chinyu was powerful. Solution. Chinyu didn't care. Backhand hand seal. Mangekyo owned by Uchiha Shisui in the original book was originally biased towards demonic illusion. If he hadn't been born with a plug-in, he would definitely be called the first person in the contemporary Uchiha family. The 9-tomo Sharingan phantoms reflected in Kimamaro's eyes suddenly collapsed. Waiting until his eyes were restored to clarity, he saw that the person who had been killed by him actually appeared in front of him alive. This made Kimamaro's face change drastically, and he intended to withdraw and quickly retreat. However, just after taking a half step, Kimamaro's body froze, obviously reaching the limit, and the whole person slammed to the ground. A hand quickly reached out and grabbed Kimamaro's shoulder first. While his complexion changed slightly, the warmth of the vast sea of chakra, which turned into a palm fairy technique, quickly poured into Kimamaro's body. With the launch of medical ninjutsu, he had already been seriously injured, and some injuries that could see deep into the bones quickly recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a few tens of seconds, a scene of life and death, human flesh and bones, was staged. Seeing everyone was stunned. What else do you know? Yahiko couldn't help but complain. Can you do us one more favor? No, Chinyu rolled his eyes. He lacks blue, and is not a virgin, and those people's situation has stabilized. Chinyu has no habit of being a bad person. Okay, since you've recovered, now I'll give you 2 choices. 1, follow me, and 2, you can leave now. Chinyu threw Kimamaro on the ground and said lightly. Kimamaro was stunned. The moment before, he was almost wiped out, but now he was told that he could leave. This gap is undoubtedly a bit too big. However, looking at this one in front of him, with his own power, he was able to kill all the madmen of the Bamboo Tori clan, who loved war to the core. After a moment of silence, Kimamaro lowered his arrogant head. I would like to follow. Looking at this scene, Yahiko and the others were stunned, and recalled the crazy fighting style of the Taketori clan that did not fear death. Perhaps, it was for this reason that Kimamaro surrendered so easily. Someone is here, are you leaving? Chinyu raised his brows. Nagato's expression changed slightly, and under the investigation of Kagura I, he was the first to lose his temper. That feels like Hanzo of the Salamander, let's hurry up. Hanzo. Yahiko's heart skipped a beat. If the incident just now did not happen, they would definitely not avoid it when they were blind. But without figuring out the ins and outs of the matter, there is a lesson from Chinyu's remarks. Yahiko bit Kiba and said, quick retreat. Also, Uchiha Chinyu, where is the Kumogakure villager Jinchuriki, column force Niyugito? For this time, the important person in the mission that almost destroyed their Akatsuki, at this juncture, but the chain cannot be dropped. Chapter 224-Demigod Who Abandoned Faith. I advise you to be concerned about the whereabouts of the Jinchuriki column force, or to think about your old nest, what kind of blows you will suffer without you, and be careful of Hanzo of the Salamander, who will uproot you. Leave the next escort task to me. Helping others is the foundation of happiness. I also like to send Buddhas to the west. Chinyu smiled playfully, and with a flick of his body, Kimimaro pulled away. Seeing this scene, Yahiko and others looked stagnant. Nagato wanted to chase after him, but was stopped by Konan. Yahiko, Nagato, I believe in Chinyu. If he was a bad guy, he wouldn't tell us about Hanzo of the Salamander's conspiracy. Konan said with a worried expression. Also, Chinyu is right, the stronghold is already there. There are many wounded soldiers, and we did not stay behind. Hanzo of the Salamander will inevitably not take advantage of it, so let's go back and have a look. But, Nagato was startled, and he stopped talking, but was interrupted by Yahiko shaking his head. If this time, Uchiha and Chinyu hadn't acted in time, our mission would have already failed. What's more, according to our current lineup, it is impossible to escort people to the country of rain safely. No matter what his purpose is, we can only rely on him. Yahiko said in a deep voice. Well, before we figure out what the purpose of Hanzo of the Salamander is, let's retreat quickly. Seeing Akatsuki, among the three giants, Konan and Yahiko made a decision. Nagato was reluctant, but he nodded in agreement, took 3 wounded soldiers, and hurriedly fled with Shangshan. About 2 or 3 minutes later, dozens of figures fell in all directions. Hanzo of the Salamander wearing a special mask. Lord Hanzo, no Akatsuki people were found around, not even the corpses of the Taketori clan. An Omegakure stepped forward to report. Looking at the devastated and razed battlefield, Hanzo of the Salamander's face was somber to ultimate, and he shouted sharply, "Where is that guy Danzo? Everyone, let me check. I want to know what happened in that third-rate organization. With such a powerful strength, it can not only repel the pursuit of the Bamboo clan, but also cause the traces of such battles." Yes. Omegakure Anbu, who received the order, with a condensed expression, pulled away one after another. For this iron-fisted ruler who can make Omegakure village, under the pressure of the 5 great powers, become a military power, there is an inexplicable awe in his heart. Seeing the ruins that had become dead silent in an instant, Hanzo of the Salamander clenched his fingers suddenly, and said sharply, "I will never let people endanger my regime. I thought I could take them for myself, but it seems that I can't keep them. Haha, Hanzo, looks like you can't hold your breath anymore." A dark figure emerged from the ruins next to him. Those black and white cheeks made Hanzo of the Salamander look cold, and his right hand suddenly hand seal. Instantaneous technique. A ghostly gesture, Hanzo of the Salamander instantly appeared behind Black Zetsu. The chain side held in his right hand slashed directly at Black Zetsu's neck with a cunning gesture. PFF'd. Without any trace of suspense, the huge head was thrown directly into the air. However, Hanzo of the Salamander's face became more and more gloomy in the face of Black Zetsu, whose head was on the ground. His sickle was smeared with Sancho fish venom, and he could see blood and seal his throat. Black Zetsu, who was already dead, fell to the ground, his body wriggled, merged again, and quickly recovered. Hee, Your Excellency Hanzo, we don't have to get really angry every time we meet. I'm here to make a deal with you. Black Zetsu smiled and looked at the ruins in front of him. I miss you. This scene is very unfamiliar to me. In Akatsuki, there is no one worthy of your attention. However, as long as you promise to join forces with me, I can tell you a secret. Hanzo of the Salamander looked so gloomy that Ultimate clenched his hand on the scythe, tightened it a little, and finally let it go. Compared with consolidating his own regime, the origin of the guy with the yin and yang face in front of him has become less important. And, in the eyes of Hanzo of the Salamander, the first thing to do now is to figure out Akatsuki's threat. I am not interested in making a deal with a guy of unknown origin like you. Hanzo of the Salamander snorted coldly, still maintaining the Sultan's way. However, if the so-called intelligence in your mouth is useful to me, I might think about it and make a deal with you. Hanzo of the Salamander, who was acting prudent, but had already been led away by the nose, Black Zetsu smiled playfully. As in the original book, Mifune's evaluation of Hanzo of the Salamander after impure world reincarnation is the same. The demigod who abandoned the belief of the strong is already afraid of challenges, and has no momentum to become stronger. The only thought is to stifle the threat in the cradle. If, let me tell you, one of Akatsuki's three little devils has the legendary Rinnegan possessed by the Six Paths Immortals, are you interested in taking it? Rinnegan of Six Paths Fairy. Hanzo of the Salamander's expression changed dramatically. Rao, who is known as a demigod, also became impatient. He is known as the pinnacle of ninjas, demigods. But facing Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama, the god of ninjas, the gap is still too big. However, as the pinnacle existence of the previous era, he understood the Six Paths Immortal more clearly, that is the existence above the god of ninjas. Rinnegan is the legendary pupil technique. If you can get these eyes, not only can you change the current situation, but you can also have the ability to reshuffle the forces of the ninja world. Moreover, only this statement can explain how the battle marks in front of them are caused. Seeing the greedy Hanzo of the Salamander flashing in his eyes, Black Zetsu smiled playfully. Lord Hanzo, it seems that you are also very interested in Rinnegan. However, now that someone is coming from a distance, I will leave first, and Danzo will continue to discuss the details with you. Leaving those words, Black Zetsu burrowed directly into the soil and disappeared without a trace. Danzo. Hanzo of the Salamander's face sank involuntarily, and he snorted coldly. No wonder that guy will join me, it seems that his ambition is not small, and he even colluded with this yin-yang-faced guy. However, Rinnegan's whereabouts are indeed worth my shot. If I can get the power of the legendary Six Paths Immortal, my regime will not only be able to be completely consolidated, but also make the 5 ninja villages bow their heads. Thinking of all the good things in the future, while Hanzo of the Salamander smiled, a dark shadow quickly swept in from a distance. When standing before him, Hanzo of the Salamander looked surprised when he saw the forehead guard of the visitor. Chapter 225-3 is better than 1. Your Excellency Hanzo, it is very disrespectful to take the liberty to appear in front of you, but this time Lord Mizukage appointed me to invite Your Excellency Hanzo to participate in the 5 Shadows talk. I looked at Hanzo of the Salamander, the so-called demigod. Not long ago, after receiving a report from Terumi Mei, he was assigned by Mizukage Karataki Yagura to come to a Megakure village and invite Hanzo of the Salamander. After all, in the previous era, he was known as a demigod, and he possessed a fighting power that even the 5 great ninja villages dared not underestimate. Invite me to participate in the 5 Shadows talk. Hanzo of the Salamander's expression froze, then he snorted coldly, and said, You Kurigakure village, after the disappearance of that tuberculosis ghost, is there no talent available? Then what is the 4th generation of Mizukage, who even commissioned Kurigakure Byakugan Ching to invite me to the 5 Shadows conference? This is simply fart. In the eyes of your 5 major countries, isn't Kurigakure village a small place, a battlefield where great powers compete? The cold voice made Ching's expression stiff. Karataki Yagura had already anticipated Hanzo of the Salamander's overreaction. In order to avoid others, he was killed by Hanzo of the Salamander before he could speak, so he was commissioned to go personally. However, thinking of everything Terumi Mei reported, Al bit the bullet and said, Your Excellency Hanzo, this is a misunderstanding. The village of Megakure, under the leadership of Your Excellency Hanzo, has already taken the step of becoming a military power, and the 5 countries have already reached a consensus and agreed on this point. Having said that, Ao couldn't help but glance at Hanzo one more time. Faced with this kind of flattery, Hanzo, who has entered old age, is obviously a bit useful. The coldness on his face is relieved a little, and he still snorts coldly, saying, HMPH, don't give me such a false means. The 5 major is it because I haven't experienced the country's indiscriminate behavior. If you have anything, just say it directly, continue with mother-in-law and mother, and then get out of here. Seeing that Hanzo had taken the bait, Ao didn't dare to sell the bait, and said after organizing the words, Your Excellency Hanzo, on behalf of the 4th generation of Mizukage, Lord Karataki Yagura, I invite you to participate in the hunt for Konoha missing Ninuchihinu. Konoha's kid. Hanzo of the Salamander frowned, obviously not expecting that Karataki Yagura worked so hard to hunt down the kid who had recently gained fame in the ninja world. The Third Ninja War, a Megakure village was restrained, but also participated in the war 1 or 2. However, Chinyu's battlefield is mainly the land and the stronghold in the rear of Konoha, so Hanzo of the Salamander's information about Chinyu is also hearsay. Ching, are you going to tell me now that the so-called 5 Shadows meeting was held for a mere kid? Hanzo of the Salamander's face turned cold. Looking at Ching who was about to speak, he snorted coldly, It's just a big joke. Have your 5 major countries fallen to such a level? A missing nin kid in a mere. Let the 5 major countries treat them so solemnly. If I participate, won't I be a joke like you? Your Excellency Hanzo, you don't know something. Ao's expression changed slightly, and she anxiously tried to explain, but she was interrupted by Hanzo of the Salamander's wave. Don't talk nonsense with me. Your 5 big countries like to toss for a kid. That's your business. I, Hanzo of the Salamander, don't have this face to lose. Hanzo of the Salamander said impatiently. However, since you are like this, I'm afraid of that kid. If he appears in front of me, I don't mind helping you solve it easily. If you're fine, then go back to the land of water and don't hang around in front of my eyes. With Karataki Yagura's propaganda of Uchiha's Chinyu threat theory, Hanzo of the Salamander is still full of eagerness to run back to the village and conspire with Danzo to conspire with Rinnegan. Moreover, in his eyes, even the former Konoha Sannin, in front of his title of demigod, almost burped. Not to mention, a kid who has suddenly appeared in this new era. 3 is better than 1, this is the simple logic of Hanzo of the Salamander. Ching's face was ashen, and he never thought that the situation would be reversed in an instant. Although he didn't flatter him often, he was quite sure that he was not on the horse's leg. However, since Hanzo of the Salamander also issued a banishment order, he did not dare to be presumptuous in front of the demigods. He took out a scroll with his backhand, placed it on the ground, and said, Your Excellency Hanzo, this is collected by us in the land of water, about Uchiha Yu, and the information about the forces under his command. If you are interested after reading it, you can go to the country of Iron to participate in the 5 Shadows talks that will be held in 3 days. We, Lord Mizukage, will definitely welcome you. Go away. Hanzo of the Salamander was visibly impatient. When the words fell, Ching smiled helplessly, and quickly pulled away and left. He didn't want to be poisoned to death by this so-called demigod existence. Ching's departure, Hanzo of the Salamander glanced at the scroll on the ground, sneered, and turned and left. It seems that the 5 great powers have really declined. Could 1 kid be better than 3? Such cowards have no ability to continue occupying the fertile land. As long as I get Rinnegan, the world will tremble at the feet of my Hanzo of the Salamander. The slightly ecstatic voice dissipated with the wind. With the departure of Hanzo of the Salamander, only the solitary scroll remained in the huge ruins. On the other hand, Chinyu and Kimimaro rushed to the Earth Mountain 7 or 8 kilometers away without stopping. As soon as they approached, a stern sound of breaking through the air suddenly came out. Raiden thunder style ground walk. The crackling thunder light, like poisonous snakes on the ground, quickly spread towards Chinyu. However, as soon as he approached, he saw a petite figure that landed in front of Chinyu first. Shikatsumyaku dead bone pulse lightning rod. Kimimaro spat out 2 white bones from both hands and stabbed straight down. The lightning that originally struck was instantly drained and directed into the ground. Seeing that he missed a strike, the figure hidden in the dark did not stop for a moment, and his hands flew down quickly, intending to shoot again. But when Kimimaro raised his right hand, the flesh and blood of his fingers turned down ferociously, exposing the white bones, which shot out like bullets. The violent scene made Niyugito, who was hiding in the dark, change his face suddenly. However, at such a close distance, she could not have expected that Kimimaro would display such a fierce attack without even needing a hand seal. Seeing the attack rapidly expanding in his pupils, a figure wrapped in thunderlight appeared in front of him first, catching the incoming white bone bullet with one hand. "You little girl, can't you just take it easy?" Chinyu gave Niyugito a chestnut on his forehead. After looking around, he didn't see Pakura's figure, and said, "Where did she go?" "Uncle, do you mean that fierce elder sister?" Niyugito stuck out his tongue and said, "She asked me to stay here just now, and left in a hurry." "However, uncle, why did you go out and come back with a kid who is as powerful as me?" Chapter 226 Did she go out? Chinyu was a little surprised. According to Pakura's temperament, during this period of time, he was inseparable from him. Now that the figure has suddenly disappeared, it is too abnormal. "Uncle, aren't you Jinchuriki column power? What kind of sealing technique is used? I heard from those old guys before, it seems to be very hard." Niyugito asked after hesitating for a while. Formula. Chinyu was stunned for a moment. The 5 major ninja villages have different sealing techniques in order to develop Jinchuriki column weapons. The different techniques have different powers. If you really want to arrange the order, I am afraid that the seal of the Uzumaki family is the most appropriate. The fake seal of Sunagakure village is the weakest. Even taking a nap will be countered by Shukaku, causing Gaara in the original book to cause the dark circles under the eyes of the national treasure that cannot be eliminated for a lifetime. As for the old guy in the mouth of Niyugito, I am afraid it is the Jinchuriki column force of the tailed orcs of all dynasties. At the end of the life of the human Jinchuriki column force, the suppression power of the sealing technique will also decrease when the physical strength and energy are weakened. It will eventually evolve into a tail beast backlash, and it will be difficult to get a good death. "Uncle, this is a secret, can't you tell it?" Niyugito said anxiously. "Then tell me what tails are in your body. Or are they scary?" Looking at Niyugito with a desperate look, Chinyu touched the tip of his nose helplessly, reached out and rubbed her head, looked at the 4-tailed monkey king with his feet up and his belly exposed, and said embarrassingly, "Can I say that it's lying right behind you?" "Lying behind me?" Niyugito was stunned for a moment, and flashed in his mind the monkey who was still playing with her just now, tired and dozing on the ground. "When I thought about it, the 4 were a bit ostentatious, and the monkeys who could eat 6 open, like Erha, had a confused look on their faces. In her eyes, the tailed beast is the embodiment of disaster. As soon as the seal is opened, it is so fierce that it can easily destroy a village. The body of the behemoth, the posture of choosing people to eat. And the monkey in front of him with his 4 legs upturned and his belly exposed, talking in his sleep, obviously it is impossible to substitute the format. Stinky turtle, don't run, you secretly lick my ass. Stinky turtle, why are you licking my toes? In the huge wilderness, the sleep talk seemed a bit annoying, and even Chinyu's cheeks twitched when he heard it. 3 tails, who were hiding in the cloak, sprang out with a swoosh. Soon there was a scream from the 4 tails. Looking at the 3 swaggering tails, Niyugito pointed with a bewildered expression. Then. That's not the three tails. Chinyu reluctantly touched the tip of his nose and nodded, thinking in his heart whether to keep these tailed beasts in shape in the future. Otherwise, it will become like a blogger in the future, and even Kurama has become a mascot, and a development game will appear. Kurigakure Village, on the Mizukage building. Karatake Yagura stood on the roof, looking a little gloomy. Not long ago, Terumi-me came back with a serious injury. I thought that this new generation would become a powerful substitute in the case of a fault in the top power in Kurigakure Village. But now, according to Kurigakure Anbu's report, he was defeated by Uchiha Chinyu if he didn't cut it, and he also left a message of solicitation. Although, this kind of move to recruit after being seriously injured seems a bit ridiculous. However, with the precedents of Kisame Hoshigaki and Biwa Juzo, Karatake Yagura can't hold back. Come out, Karatake Yagura said suddenly. Soon I saw the rainwater remaining not far away, and a figure emerged from the rapid squirming. In the end, the ghost lamp full moon was revealed. Fourth generation Mizukage, what's the matter with you looking for me in such a hurry? Ghost Lantern Manu said coldly. As a well-known ghost lamp family in the village of Kurigakure, there is also a second generation Mizukage in the past dynasties. It can be said that after the three generations of Mizukage were killed, the ghost lamp full moon is also a popular Mizukage. Pity that, like Terumi-me, he lost in the physique of Jinchuriki column. You're still the same. Karatake Yagura obviously didn't take Ghost Lantern's attitude to heart, and said, you should know about not slashing again, right? He, like you, met Konoha missing Nin Uchiha Chinyu and was also defeated. It's just that he is different from you. Uchiha and Chinyu have a heart of solicitation, and will extend an olive branch to Zabuchuin. He has a crush on that guy who won't kill him again. Ghost Lamp Manu's expression froze, and he couldn't help but think, fourth generation Mizukage, do you have any ideas? Manu, you still understand me. Karatake Yagura nodded coldly. Next, I'm about to leave for the Five Shadows Conference. You and Zaibushin, and Terumi-me, will be with me. Following Karatake Yagura's orders. The other four major countries also made judgments one after another, making the entire ninja world feel like a storm is coming. Sunagakure Village, inside Kei's cage office. Rasa was standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window with a cold face, looking at the information scroll in his hand, which was quickly delivered in the land of water, and almost broke his phalanx. This scene cast a layer of inexplicable depression in the huge office. Originally gathered here and belonged to the backbone of Sunagakure Village of this era couldn't hold back their breath. Feeling the uneasy atmosphere around him getting stronger and stronger, Maki took the lead and couldn't hold back. Lord Kei's, what are we going to do next? As soon as these words came out, everyone's nerves were immediately tense, their eyes turned slightly, and they locked on Rasa. Pakura, who was known as the hero of the Sunagakure village not long ago as a candidate for 4 generations of Kei's at the same time. By Rasa's order and become a political victim of the armistice between Sunagakure and Kurigakure villages. This is undoubtedly chilling. Although, those high-level people, as well as the famous name of the country of wind, all said that this is a heroic act that Pakura is willing to agree with. But as long as Pakura are involved in the end, they will clearly know that this is just a righteous and awe-inspiring beautification excuse to deceive the villagers of Sunagakure village. If you know, this trip is to die. Who would agree so easily? Tilda, Rasa took a deep breath and looked around the office. Looking at the familiar faces, this represents the strongest fighting force in Sunagakure village at the moment. Especially Pakura, which is known as the hero of Sunagakure village. If she died, it might be a good thing. Pity that Uchiha Chinyu stepped in and Pakura survived the sure kill game. It will be a mess of unusual headaches waiting for them in Sunagakure village. Looking at the faces with different expressions, Rasa said coldly, "This time I am calling you all for 3 things. The first one is the 5 Shadows meeting convened by the new 4th generation Mizukage of Kurigakure village. After a resolution with the Council of Elders, our Sunagakure village will go to the Iron Country to participate." Chapter 227 Rasa's decision. 4th generation, are we really going to participate in the 5 Shadows conference? Maki was the first to lose his breath. Then how did the grievances between the village of Kurigakure and us on the battlefield be resolved? In the Third Ninja World War, it seems that the situation is gradually becoming clear, and the game of great powers has come to an end. But according to the experience of the First and Second Ninja Wars, this time is the key to determining the division of interests after the war. Moreover, the 5 Shadow Conference, except that the 5 countries were just established, and the first Hokage Senju Hashirama held the premise of the distribution of tail beasts, except that it happened. Held once by the 2nd generation Hokage Senju Tobarama after the First Ninja World War. In the following years, it did not appear. Now suddenly there is a new Mizukage to convene, obviously something is wrong. Don't worry, since this 5 Shadows conference was held by the 4th generation of Mizukage Karataki Yagura, as long as our Sunagakure village is invited, the old grudges will be written off. Rasa said coldly, "So, for the peace of Sunagakure village, this is also an elder. Will be the basis of decision-making." Quote. A write-off. The people present were stunned. One of them, the blue-haired girl, took the lead in clenching her fists and said, "Since I knew this was the premise of the 5 Shadows conference, why did I ask Pakura to die?" As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere of the scene instantly became more depressing. Maki pressed the girl's shoulder and said urgently, "Shut up, don't talk nonsense here." 4th generation Kazekage-sama, Galuro didn't have any intentions. She and Pakura were sisters. After hearing the good news, she couldn't accept it for a while. She didn't disagree with the decision of the village's top management. Having said that, Maki hurriedly winked and shouted in a deep voice, "Galuro, don't hurry up and apologize to the 4th generation Kazekage. I didn't say anything wrong." Galio broke free from Maki's hand, and when he saw that he was about to come out of the crowd, everyone's expressions tightened. When he saw Galuro, he took a step forward, but he couldn't let go. The body seemed to have become a manipulated puppet, and retreated under the watchful eyes of the public. The sudden scene made the nerves of the people present suddenly tense, and just as they were about to burst out, a hearty laugh followed from the ceiling. "Ha ha, I didn't expect to come here so rarely to encounter such a farce. It seems that you, Rasa, you are a jerk, you also have a time to be shriveled." Came, and the expressions of the Sunagakure who had planned to shoot violently to catch the prisoners who broke into Kazekage's office without authorization changed drastically. "It's Consultant Chio, why are you here?" Maki was startled, his cheeks couldn't help twitching, and with a stiff smile, he hurried up to meet him. If the question from Galuru just now caught him off guard, then the Chio advisor who appeared in front of him gave him a headache. Since his son died in the hands of White Fang, his grandson disappeared for no reason, and the old woman in front of him has become a mad woman. "Maki, you kid, don't you think I'm going to toss you juniors again?" Chio laughed and said, "I'll come this time, but Rasa, this brat, asked me to come. I heard that you asked my little brother to go out in person not long ago. What's the problem? I asked you to even invite the consultants out. If I didn't see some familiar faces in the office, I would still. I thought that the Third Ninja War had exhausted all of Sunagakure village's bottom line." The unbridled words made Maki's face bitter. That one mouthful of Little Devil's Head and another mouthful of Little Devil's Head made them laugh and almost suffered internal injuries. The corners of Rasa's eyes also twitched a few times. After heaving a heavy breath, he managed to calm his mind. He glanced at Galuro and said, "Consultant Chio, this time I asked Hilao to go there to deal with Pakura. Defection, Collusion with Konoha missing nin Uchiha Chinyu. Quote. As4, please take a trip. In order to inform you, we have found the whereabouts of your grandson, Sasori of the Red Sand. The laughter that echoed in the office came to an end. Chiyo's slightly withered cheeks twitched obviously, and the next moment, without warning, he strode straight towards Rasa's. In the eyes of everyone, he grabbed Rasa's shoulder and said anxiously, "Where is that guy, and how is he now?" The hysterical questioning and this unexpected scene made Maki's face change, and he hurriedly performed the teleportation technique, appeared beside him, and held Chiyo's arm. Consultant Chiyo, regarding the whereabouts of Sasori of the Red Sand, we also just got it from Kurigakure village. Don't be too impulsive, first listen to the words of the fourth generation of Mizukage-sama. Chiyo, though a consultant, holds a high status in Sunagakure village. But for this kind of offense, once Rasa is determined to pursue it, he may not be able to escape being punished. Chiyo froze for a moment, looked at Rasa who looked as usual, and let go of his hand with a cold face. I originally planned to hold you responsible for inviting my brother away, but now tell me about that guy Sasori, then this time thing, write it off. Quote. Chiyo calmed down all of a sudden. Maki secretly breathed a sigh of relief and stepped aside. However, feeling the still depressing atmosphere, Maki felt helpless. He's just an elite jonin, but it's too difficult to have a consultant's heart. Consultant Chiyo, you don't need to be too nervous, this time Hailao personally dispatched, all because he got the whereabouts of Sasori of the Red Sand. Rasa said lightly. And all these things, whether it is Pakura or Sasori of the Red Sand, are related to Uchiha Chinyu, known as Konoha missing nin Scarlet Ashura. The Sharingan kid. Chiyo was startled. As a consultant for Sunagakure village, she doesn't like to be in charge. But it is also clear that, whether it is Sasori or Pakura, among the younger generation of Sunagakure village, they are also outstanding. If you want to be honest, if Sasori is still in Sunagakure village, the location of the 4 generations of Kazekage, I am afraid there is really no place for Rasa. It seems that Consultant Chiyo also knows about Uchiha Chinyu's deeds. Rasa was a little surprised, and after a pause, he said, according to the report of the eyeliner buried in Konoha Shinobi village. The contemporary Uchiha clan, in addition to Shisui, who appeared in the Third Ninja World War, also has Uchiha Itachi, a genius who started 3-tomo Sharingan at the age of 6, but the most unexpected thing is that there is a genius who hides the halo of genius. A monster that has been around for 16 or 17 years, known as the blood-colored Asura Uchiha Chinyu. Quote. He not only opened up the legendary Mangekyo Sharingan that only Uchiha Madara possesses and can control tailed beasts, but also secretly gathered a group of powerful, but terrifying and dangerous guys in the major ninja villages. Among them, the members known to have S rank, the S rank missing nin who almost destroyed the entire shinobi village, known as the undead Taki Shinobi Kakuzu. Quote. Chapter 228-1 Jinchuriki, Column 4 Spunpuku. The huge Kazekage office, Rasa's cold voice echoed. As the elite gathered here from Sunagakure village, they listened to the narration with a livid expression. Even Chiyo, who was called a consultant, was no exception. S rank, undead Kakuzu. Yashimaru, who was standing beside Maki, couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva, but was quickly glared by Maki and kept quiet obediently. After a pause, Rasa continued. In the Konoha ninja village, there was a mutiny. The former members of the 7 ninja swordsmen, the same S rank missing nin, the Kurigakure eccentric Kisame Hoshigaki, and the silent assassin Biwa Juzo. The godson of the god of soup, S rank missing Ninhaiden. Iwagakure village, a direct disciple of Onoki for 2 days, is known as the most likely to become the next Tsuchikage. S level missing nin, Bakuden explosion style genius Deidara. There is also the S rank missing nin Pakura of the Shikuden scorched style ninja in the village of Sunagakure, known as the hero, and finally the grandson of your advisor Chiyo, known as the Genius Puppet Master, the long-lost rank missing nin, Sasori of the Red Sand. Among them, according to the known information, a group of missing nins headed by Uchiha Chinyu have hunted down the previous 3 generations of Mizukage, took the tailed beast Jita, and planned to assassinate the 3rd generation of Reikage in the Land of the Land. Also, on the way out of Konoha Shinobi Village, he killed Jinchuriki column Lee Laozi, the 4-tailed man in Iwagakure Village who was in charge of chasing missing Nindidera, which means that 2 of the 9 big-tailed beasts have already fallen into his hands. Quote, if it is allowed to develop, then the missing nin group headed by Konoha missing nin Uchiha Chinyu will not know how powerful it will be. Chang's voice echoed in the office. Every time the person's name was mentioned, it was like an invisible big hand, clenching their hearts tightly. A string of rank missing nin titles, and various genius titles. This makes the leader, known as Konoha missing nin, Uchiha Chinyu of the blood-colored Ashura, cast a more mysterious veil. Such a powerful force, gathered together, is definitely the most terrifying genius group in their eyes. You mean, my precious grandson, turned out to be someone else's subordinate? Chiyo suddenly laughed. This is just a fart. That guy Sasori, if he really wanted to be someone else's subordinate, would never defect from the village. As for the Sharingan kid, I don't believe that he really has the ability to gather this group of people. This is just an excuse for yourself in this incompetent era of yours. Listening to this accusation, Sunagakure, who was present, even Maki had a bitter look on his face, and he couldn't refute it. Although Chiyo didn't give them any face, but compared with the predecessors who lived in the war all the year round, their ninja strength has indeed dropped a lot. The only thing he can do now is to turn his eyes for help to Rasa. Consultant Chiyo, regarding the strength of Uchiha Chinyu, except for Konoha Ninja Village, there is only a vague outline of cognition among the 4 major ninja villages, but this time, for the smooth holding of the 5 Shadows Conference, our country of wind can occupy a favorable position. Where I want you to come with me in person. Seeing that his own political team was being scolded, Rasa couldn't hold back his breath, and changed the topic in a hurry. Let me go. Chiyo raised his brows and said in a deep voice, you little bastard, you have already made my little brother run errands. If I also go to the so-called 5 Shadows Conference, I'm afraid the defense in the village will not be able to. It has become very weak, and once someone sneaks up, I am afraid it will not be worth the loss. Quote, in any ninja village, except for Kazekage, the strongest combat force, he is the advisor of the village. Those who can become consultants are the older generation of ninjas with outstanding strength, high voice and prestige. At a critical moment, it can also help out and become a surprise. Of course, there are also the Konoha gangster trio in the original book, Danzo, Homura Mitokado and Kaharu Udatane who turn their deaf ears to Pain's attack. Consultant Chiyo, don't worry, this 5 Shadows Conference was held under the consensus of the 5 major powers reaching a truce. If any party backs out, it will become the enemy of the other 4 powers. Rasa explained lightly. Furthermore, after we left, I have ordered Bunpuku to return to the village to take a seat, and the major families have joined forces with each other to cooperate with the barrier in the village. Even if Uchiha Chinyu came, it would be difficult to fly. Bunpuku. Chiyo was slightly startled, and soon heard the sound of slow footsteps coming from outside the corridor. As the door was pushed open, an old monk with a wrinkled face walked in slowly. The kind smile on his face made many people look at him. Who is this old monk? Galio couldn't help asking. However, Maki quickly glared at him and said solemnly, this is the one-tailed person Jinchuriki, column force who lives in a special place, Bunpuku-sama. People Jinchuriki column force. As a tailed beast weapon, it is strictly kept secret in any ninja village. Especially in the village of Sunagakure, The human Jinchuriki column force weapon made by using the extremely harmful hypnosis technique is imprisoned in the depths of the special desert. It will never be recalled if it is not necessary. Bunpuku, we haven't seen you for a long time. I thought you were tossed to death by that civet cat, but I didn't expect you to be in good spirits. Chiyo raised his eyelids and looked at it. Hee, Consultant Chiyo, you are serious. Bunpuku laughed heartily, fiddled with the Buddha beads in his hand, and said, if I am really tossed to death, you old woman should also try to seal it again. In the village, the only people sealed by Grandmaster are you and Old Man Hai. Having said that, Bunpuku looked around and said a little regretfully, however, I thought I would be able to get together with old friends in a limited number of years, but I didn't expect that even the Old Man Hai was not there. It seems that this time the village it's not a small thing that happened here. Hey, Bunpuku, what nonsense are you talking about? My little brother just went out on a mission. Chiyo glared, but as Bunpuku said, it was rare for her to meet an old friend, and she rarely lost her temper. After a moment of hesitation, she said, Old monk, tell me how long you can live. As soon as these words came out, the expressions of everyone in the field changed drastically. Human Jinchuriki column power is crucial for a ninja village. Once the human Jinchuriki column force dies, it means that the seal in the body will be lifted, and the grievances accumulated by the tailed beast that has been sealed for decades will explode in an instant. Especially Aikyo Shukaku, who has always been violent. In the history of Sunagaku Village, every runaway has ruined many elites in the village. Right now is when the Five Shadows Conference is held and the Third Ninja World War comes to an end. If something goes wrong in Bunpuku now, it will be a fatal blow to Sunagaku Village. Once other ninja villages are informed that Sunagaku Village has lost its human Jinchuriki column force weapon, it is a huge hidden danger. Chapter 229 Puppet Hokage. Haha, you old woman hasn't died yet, of course I won't. Bunpuku laughed and said, Shukaku's character is tyrannical, but it can still be done after 3 or 5 years, and it will be troublesome for 4 generations during this time. Cage, pay more attention, the man who takes my mantle. 3 or 5 years. When the people present heard the words, their faces changed involuntarily. But Chiyo and Rasa were secretly relieved. As long as this kind of thing doesn't happen during the Five Shadows talks, 3 to 5 years is enough for them to find a new person, Jinchuriki column force. And, in Rasa's mind, a plan has already been made. Thinking of this, Rasa subconsciously looked at Galio. However, Galio, who was looking at him, was clearly brooding about Pakura, and after a cold snort, he turned his head away. Well, since there is Bunpuku in town, the village is impregnable, so the old lady will come with you in person, but I still need some time to clean up. Chiyo turned around and left first after dropping those words. Meanwhile, in Konoha Shinobi Village. Compared with other ninja villages, there is an inexplicable depressing atmosphere in the huge village. Recently, Konoha Missing Nin, Scarlet Ashura Uchiha Chinyu, and Shimura Danzo, one of Konoha's 3 advisors, defected, causing public opinion in the village to rise day by day. If it wasn't for the announcement of the 3rd generation of Hokage and the recommendation of Konoha's Golden Glitter, Namikaze Minato became the 4th generation of Hokage, I am afraid this public opinion would have intensified. In the Hokage office, the 3 generations of Hokage who used to sit in the first place have long since retired and been replaced by Namikaze Minato. In the huge office, in addition to the new Hokage, there are 3 generations of Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, Jiraiya and Tsunade Insanin. 2 of Konoha's advisors, Kaharu Udatane and Homura Mitokado, among others. Minato called us urgently, what's the reason? Jiraiya was the first to lose his breath. However, he was quickly suppressed by the 3rd generation Hokage probe and said, don't worry, let's talk about it when Fugaku and Shisui come. Seeing her teacher speak out to discourage her, Jiraiya felt extremely urgent, but she kept her mouth shut and waited patiently. 7 or 8 minutes later, Uchiha Fugaku, who was serving in the guards, and Uchiha Shisui, who was wearing Anbu costumes, appeared in the office like ghosts. Lord Hokage. After Uchiha Fugaku glanced at Namikaze Minato, he bowed to the third Hokage and said, I have received the latest information about Uchiha Chinyu that happened in the Land of Water. Having said that, Uchiha Fugaku paused for a moment and looked at the 3 generations of Hokage. Fugaku, you kid, can't you talk without hesitation? What happened in the Land of Water? Jiraiya was immediately anxious, but was quickly glared by the 3 generations of Hokage, and said, Go ahead, they are called. I came here to deal with Uchiha Chinyu's affairs. Uchiha Fugaku nodded in agreement, took out a scroll, and handed it to the 3rd generation of Hokage, saying, This is an intelligence scroll, which records Uchiha Chinyu, who once appeared in the Land of Water. Among them, Pakura, the hero of Sunagakure village, was kidnapped, and the genius ghost lantern Manu was severely damaged. Later, it was discovered that he appeared in the territory of a Megakure village, and he had a brief encounter with Terumi Mei, the genius who pursued the ghosts in the Land of Water. Conflict. He kidnapped Shikuden, scorched-style ninja Pakura. Jiraiya was the first to lose his breath. Tsunade quickly yelled, Jiraiya, can't you just shut up and stay aside? If you have any questions, Minato and the teacher will raise them, so don't make trouble here. I get it, Tsunade, let go, or you'll screw my whole ear off. Jiraiya hurriedly begged for mercy. Watching Jiraiya, one of the dignified Sannin, surrender directly and admit defeat, I am afraid that only Tsunade, who is also a Sannin, can do it. Okay, there are so many people here, so don't make fun of you. The 3rd generation Hokage warned. According to the information, what happened when Uchiha Chinyu robbed Pakura and met with Terumi Mei, or was Pakura still there at the time, and what attitude did he have? Quote. Faced with this question, the people present couldn't help but stun for a while, obviously smelling something unusual, and all looked at Uchiha Fugaku. Lord Hokage, it seems to have guessed that, according to the eyeliner buried in the village of Kurigakure, Terumi Mei's reply at that time was that Pakura willingly followed Chinyu's left and right. Looking at their relationship, it was not like a hijacking as the outside world said. Uchiha Fugaku explained. Does that mean there is something wrong between Pakura and Sunagakure village? Jiraiya pressed again, but this time Tsunade didn't stop him. After all, now everyone has this question in their hearts. It's possible. The 3rd generation Hokage nodded and said, Rasa has just become the 4th generation Kazekage, to ease the relationship with the Country of Water, but sent Pakura, who severely damaged the battlefield of the Country of Water, to the Country of Water. This is too intriguing. However, now I am even more certain that once Uchiha Chinyu goes wild, it will threaten the peace of the entire ninja world. He has a special personality charm and can gather a group of such special people under his command, but not any one person can do it. It's not that I underestimate everyone here. I think whether it's Jiraiya or Namikaze Minato, even I can't do it. The slightly long-sounding voice echoed in the office, and there was no way to disperse it for a long time. The expressions of Jiraiya and the others changed slightly, but in the face of these contemptuous words, no one refuted them. After all, according to the name and origin of every person mentioned in the newspaper, it is not general. To be able to keep these murderers safe, unless they have great ability, it is not impossible for them to be beheaded by backlash in the middle of the night. Minato, what are your thoughts? 3 generations of Hokage said suddenly. Namikaze Minato, who was sitting in the first place, gave a wry smile. Originally, I was thinking that after becoming the 4th generation of Hokage, I would be able to show off my strengths and realize the so-called Hokage dream. It never occurred to me that among the 3 generations of Hokage and Konoha advisors, it was only released to buffer the defection of Uchiha Chinyu, to divert the attention of the villagers, and to enhance the influence of Konoha ninja village in the 5 countries. Now Namikaze Minato feels like a puppet Hokage. I thought that Uchiha and Chinyu had left, and that he was able to stand out. It seemed that he wanted to be too beautiful. However, now the 3rd generation of Hokage threw him this thorny problem. Namikaze Minato was surprised, but after a bit of seriousness, he said, "Everyone, you should also know that Uchiha Chinyu's strength is unfathomable, although many people in him are present. He has played against each other, and according to my calculations, his real strength is still showing the tip of the iceberg." Quote. Our Konoha Ninja Village agreed to go to the 5 Shadows Conference, but the ultimate goal is to facilitate peace talks between Uchiha Chinyu and the 5 major countries. Chapter 230-New Son of Prophecy. Achieving peace talks. Jiraiya was stunned at first, then said, "I'm afraid this is too difficult." Let's not say, will Uchiha Chinyu give up those monsters under his command, just rely on the 3 generations of Mizukage, the 3rd generation of Raikage to fall, and the 4-tailed Jinchuriki column force to be killed. I am afraid that the anger of the 3 major countries cannot be suppressed. To sit down and negotiate well, I am afraid it is more difficult than going to the sky. Quote. Jiraiya's vulgar remarks. I could do was look at Namikaze Minato in unison. In their eyes, since Namikaze Minato can come up with this kind of resolution, it is enough to prove that he had an idea. Terror. Namikaze Minato paused, organized the words, and said, "As long as they have seen the real horror of Uchiha Chinyu, their beliefs will be shaken." At that time, as long as Uchiha Chinyu and the 4 major countries take the initiative to take a step back, this peace talks can be facilitated. The inexplicable remark made many people in the field puzzled. Only under the flickering turbid old eyes of the 3rd generation Hokage, he took the lead and said, "You mean, Uchiha Chinyu will do more shocking things?" As soon as these words came out, everyone's expressions changed drastically. Now it's crazy enough to kill 3 generations of Mizukage and 3 generations of Raikage, and even kill the 4-tailed Jinchuriki column force. Now Namikaze Minato is telling them that this is just the beginning. They have lived on horses for a lifetime, and I am afraid they can't compare to Chinyu's moment of brilliance. Yes, although I don't know what else Chinyu will do, but according to my intuition, it will happen soon. Namikaze Minato's face became more solemn, and said, "This is also the Toad Immortal, who asked me to bring it back. Word of mouth, Uchiha Chinyu will become the existence that subverts the world of ninja." Quote. Is it the son of prophecy in the mouth of Daxian Toad? Jiraiya's expression changed slightly. Studying sage art at Mount Myoboku that day, Jiraiya had also heard that the Toad Immortal was the Grand Master Prophecy. Among them, it is precisely because the son of prophecy will appear that Jiraiya will accept the 3 Nagato as apprentices in the Second Ninja War, regardless of Orochimaru's objection, and even teach ninjutsu. The root cause of all this is that I have seen it with my own eyes, the legendary Rinnegan of Nagato, who is known as the 6 Paths Fairy. I thought that the son of prophecy would fall on these 3 people, but now Chinyu's appearance has turned everything upside down. Yes, Namikaze Minato nodded and said, "When I was leaving, the Toad Immortal mentioned that he has a very accurate eye for people, but only when he saw Uchiha Chinyu did he realize that he was the only one who couldn't. Those who see it through, it feels as if they are beyond the destiny of this world." Quote. Listening to these gradually mysterious words, the 3rd generation Hokage tapped his finger on the head of the chair 7 or 8 times, and said, "Since even the great immortal of Mount Myoboku said the same, we will try to use Minato's suggestion to come here. Attend the 5 Shadows Conference." Quote. During this time, Fugaku and Shisui, I hope you can find a way to find out Chinyu's whereabouts and let him accept our proposal. Lord Hokage, we know. Uchiha Fugaku immediately agreed. 3 generations of Hokage waved at random. Then you all retreat first, then Minato will attend the 5 Shadows meeting in my place. Jiraiya and Tsunade will accompany me, This is the highest order, Tsunade, please don't refuse. Tsunade was stunned for a moment. Originally, she was only returning to Konoha Shinobi Village to visit the grave. She never thought that she would be involved in such a huge Uzumaki. However, when he thought that the strange recipe came from Chinyu's hands, Tsunade couldn't hold back his curiosity, so he silently agreed. Lord Hokage, Shisui and I leave first. After Uchiha Fugaku replied, he disappeared into the office with Shisui like a ghost. Just after leaving the Hokage building and appearing on the street outside, Uchiha Fugaku looked at the corner of the street and said, Makoto, why are you here? Right now, the Uchiha clan and Konoha Shinobi have had a long history of grievances. Although there is not much conflict, Uchiha Makoto is now pregnant. Under normal circumstances, he would not leave the Uchiha clan's garrison. It's Itachi. He suddenly left the village when he was on the Chunin mission yesterday. I'm worried that he ran to find Chinyu. Uchiha Makoto said urgently with a worried expression. However, as soon as the words fell, Fugaku grabbed his shoulders and, like Shisui, performed the teleportation technique and quickly left the vicinity of the Hokage building. In just a few minutes, after rushing back to the garrison station area, Uchiha Fugaku stopped and looked at Makoto, whose face was a little wet, and said anxiously, Makoto, are you feeling well? It was the Hokage building just now. If Anbu's eyeliner knows that Itachi has left the village, I'm afraid he will also be labeled missing nin. Uchiha Mikoto's expression turned pale and said, Fugaku, I'm sorry, I was too nervous, so I ignored this. However, now that Itachi is missing, it may not be discovered in a short time, but in a long time, I am afraid it will be exposed. What should we do? Not long ago, Chinyu's defection had made the Uchiha family's position in the Konoha ninja village even more sensitive. In particular, some of the hawkish children of the clan threatened to follow Uchiha Chinyu's example and escape the Konoha ninja village with their clan to rebuild a big country outside. If it weren't for Uchiha Fugaku and Shisui, who simultaneously exerted their overwhelming strength to keep their mouths shut, things would have gotten out of hand. Don't worry, the third-generation Hokage will give Shisui and me the task of hunting down Chinyu. In the name of the task, I claim to bring Itachi to the outside world. No one should doubt that. Uchiha Fugaku hesitated for a moment and said, moreover, Minato will be accompanied by Jiraiya-sama and Tsunade-sama today to attend the meeting of the Five Shadows in the Country of Iron. The village's attention will be completely on this matter, and the attention of Itachi will be reduced to minimum. My biggest worry is that once Shisui and I leave the village, those restless guys don't know what will happen. Having said that, Uchiha Fugaku glanced at the brightly lit Uchiha clan residence. Senju clan who were against their clan in the past. Also because of his belligerence and love of face and honor, he caused a lot of damage on the battlefield, and eventually began to wither and decline. The Uchiha family seems to be growing stronger, but that's only superficial. If there is not a legendary ninja like Uchiha Madara to lead, once the prodigious head and horns are revealed, I am afraid that it will instantly lead to the fatal blow of the Five Kingdoms. It can be said that now Uchiha Chinyu is so valued, all because he is not only born in the Uchiha family, but also has Mangekyo Sharingan. That is a means to easily control the tailed beast, enough to make the big country fear it. Chapter 231-Not even a kid. Uncle, don't worry, Itachi is still young, but he is not weak in terms of strength and resourcefulness. Right now, the Five Shadows Conference is about to be held, and the battle between the great powers has temporarily stopped. It should not have any accident. Uchiha Shisui said, advised. Also, as long as Itachi's goal is to find Chinyu, then we will meet eventually. Uchiha Fugaku nodded in agreement, patted Shisui on the shoulder, and sighed. If Chinyu hadn't been born, you, Shisui, would probably be the strongest young generation in our generation. Since water is born, why is it Shungyu? Faced with these remarks, Uchiha Shisui fell silent. At the junction of Kumogakure village and Amegakure village, 3 figures shrouded in yuhi-colored cloud cloaks quickly passed through the forest. Ah, times. Chinyu sneezed, rubbed the tip of his nose and said, I've been sneezing all the time recently, does Pakura miss me? Uncle, don't be stinky. Niyugido rolled his eyes. You really don't want to go to the eldest sister, she is in a hurry. Looking for her, Chinyu threw the back of Niyugido's head with his backhand. She is the hero of Sunagakure village. She is much stronger than you think. If you have the heart to care about people, you might as well clean up your mood and become a Jinchuriki column force. Having said that, Chinyu looked at Kimimaro, who was speechless. Lord Chinyu, this place is not far from where Kumogakure village is located. As long as you cross the mountain in front, you can reach the warning area of Kumogakure village. Kimimaro raised his head and said indifferently. Kimimaro, who looked like a map of human flesh, Chinyu touched the tip of his nose helplessly and said, Kimimaro, whether you were 2 years old or 3 years old, you started to fight on the battlefield, you still remember these winding roads very clearly. Your bastard dad is really cruel, and putting you on the battlefield so early is like child abuse. A day ago, Chinyu was still in high spirits when he took over Akatsuki's escort mission. However, when he was on his way, he was confused when facing east, west, north and south. Especially the one-click full-level system, but there is no way for Chinyu to see the map experience full level. This suddenly made Chinyu complain, and in the future, he would make a high X map to benefit the common people for the high-level road idiots like Sauron. Uncle, you seem more ruthless than his father. Niyugido couldn't help complaining. The first time we met, it was inevitable to pull home. When asked about the whereabouts of the whole family, Kimimaro directly replied that the whole family had just been exterminated by Chinyu, which made Niyugido almost vomit out old blood. As a clan of lunatics, there are not a few enemies they have provoked, and the main force has been killed by Chinyu. Once this matter spreads, the old and weak women and children left behind by the Bamboo family will also be killed by their enemies. This is no different from genocide. Don't talk, someone is here. Chinyu raised his brows. Although he had already used the technique of transformation, he killed a 3rd-generation Raikage not long ago. If the identity is revealed, I am afraid that he will be hunted down by the village. As soon as the voice fell, 7 or 8 figures, like ghosts, appeared all around and stopped directly in front of the 3 of them. Looking at the mask on that face, it was obvious that it was an Anbu member of Kumogakure village. Are you Akatsuki? The Anbu members headed suddenly said, we are here to hand over tasks, you can just hand them over to us. It's that simple, don't you need to invite us in for a cup of tea, admire the moon, and chat. We were assassinated a lot along the way, and we paid a lot of money. In case I hand over someone to you, at the end if something went wrong in the journey, we Akatsuki will not only get paid, but also our reputation. Quote. Hearing these words, Niyugido also moved his steps subconsciously and came behind Chinyu. Let uncle come in with me, they're not bad people. HMPH, we don't care if they are bad guys or not, but are you questioning the ability of our Kurigakure Anbu, and this is the boundary of the Land of Thunder, you can't allow you to point fingers at us. The Anbu member who took the lead snorted coldly, saying nothing. Symptoms erupted. For them, if it wasn't for the imminent seal of the Second Ninja World, the situation of the Third Ninja World War would be unclear. There is also a restless family force lurking in the village, and 3 generations of Raikage are still missing. Akatsuki should escort Niyugido back to Kumogakure village in advance in order to hide from the public and enhance the village's combat power. Although, Akatsuki has absorbed many wandering ninjas under the management of Nagato and others over the years. But in the eyes of big countries, ants are ants, the only difference is that they are thinner and fatter. Moreover, with the sturdy folk customs of the Land of Thunder, and Kumogakure's irritable character, they never faced Akatsuki's Kumogaku's existence from the very beginning. Now, Chinyu actually spoke out to refute their decision. Kumogaku, who took the lead, was the first to lose his breath and went straight to Niyugito to catch him. A group of frogs on the soles of the feet, hurry up and hand over the people, otherwise don't blame us for being rude. However, just as they moved, Kimimaro, who had been standing by Chinyu's side, moved first. The agile figure, like a tiger and a leopard, appeared in front of Kumogaku Anbu one step ahead. That short figure passed through the protruding big hand, and a sharp bone spear, snow-white like a spear, pierced directly towards Kumogaku's shoulder in a lightning-quick manner. PFF'd. Blood spurted out like a dazzling firework. The blow was successful. Kimimaro didn't stop for a while, and the bone spurs from his right hand shot out like a cannonball. The huge impact directly nailed Kumogaku to the tree trunk 7 or 8 meters away. The violent scene caused the eyes of the remaining 6 Anbu ninjas to change dramatically. In their eyes, Kimimaro's short stature, obviously a 6 or 7-year-old child, is not enough for them. Anbu, who took the lead, was knocked into the air and severely damaged. Feeling the bloody smell in the air, they, who were originally irritable, suddenly became violent. However, a slightly immature and indifferent voice came out from under the ill-fitting auspicious cloud cloak. "Don't move, or they will all die." The voice fell, and a row of white bones, like a soil cone, spurted out of the ground without warning, and stopped abruptly when they were an inch away from their bodies. For a time, with a radius of more than 10 meters, a huge bone cage was formed with them as the center. Even Captain Anbu, who was nailed to the tree trunk in the distance, was stunned. "Why don't you do it? You can't even compare to a brat. Are you planning to send me?" Chinyu laughed dryly, looked at the rock not far away, and said, "Speaking of things, I don't plan to come out now, do you think? Collect their bodies." As soon as these words fell, the complexion of Kumogaku in the field changed drastically, and the captain who led the team looked at Chinyu with disbelief. Chapter 232 The Fierce Girl Samui. Kumogaku Anbu in the field was full of shock, especially Captain Kumogaku Anbu, who was directly nailed to the tree trunk by Kimimaro's shot. When they received the task, the people above did not tell them, and they would leave behind. "Akatsuki is really extraordinary. It seems that people from the outside world underestimate you." A pretty female voice came out from behind the rock with a hint of coldness. Soon, in front of everyone's eyes, a blonde girl about 16 or 17 years old came out from behind the rock. Wearing a gray combat service, the tight attire highlights her plump figure. "That body, it's really that. Uncle, hurry up and see, she is more fierce than the fierce elder sister," Niyugito said coldly. This made Chinyu face a black line in an instant, and flicked directly over her forehead. However, from the beginning to the end, Chinyu took into account the issue of etiquette. His eyes were still locked on the blonde girl. As for whether she is fierce or not, Chinyu doesn't care. At least, that feeling simply cannot escape the true fragrance law. If Chinyu remembers correctly, this should be Samui, the fierce man of Kumogaku's elite Jonin who appeared in the 4th Ninja War in the original book. Captain Samui, Captain Anbu, who was nailed to the tree trunk, took the lead in calming his breath. "It's our incompetence. Not only did we fail to find out about the arrival of Captain Samui, but we also shamed the Kumogaku village in public and lived up to the high hopes of Lord Rakage." He spoke. Captain Anbu quickly took out a kunai, and without the slightest hesitation, stabbed it into his throat. This scene is simply dry-tempered. He committed suicide without a word. "Stop," Samui snorted coldly, and with a flick of his right hand, Chinbin flashed out of his sleeve without warning, and hit Kulu directly at the speed of the first attack. With a thud, kunai was instantly knocked into the air and slanted on the tree trunk. Seeing this scene, Chinyu raised his brows and said with a smile, these 1,000 books are made of materials that increase the chakra conductivity. It seems that your Grandmaster has 1,000 needles of the powerful Raiden, Thunder-style, nature transformation. Sure enough, people can't look at their looks, and beautiful women can't compete. Having said that, Chinyu looked at Kimimaro and said, "Remove the attack." "My lord, I'll go now." Kimimaro replied indifferently, his hands clasped together suddenly, after releasing the spell. The dense bone spears that emerged from the ground, like bamboo shoots after a rain, quickly disappeared before everyone's eyes. If not, there are still traces of mess on the ground, and they can't believe it. The dignified Anbu elite ninja was directly planted in the hands of a little kid in one face. Kimimaro pulled out the bone spear stuck in the trunk, blood spattered. Let the pale-faced Anbu ninja fall to the ground. "Lord Samui, you see this is a beautiful misunderstanding. We Akatsuki are also guests. You should invite us to stay overnight, right?" Chinyu said with a light smile. Samui glanced indifferently and said, "No wonder Yugito will call you a greasy uncle, and there is really a bit of dead on his mouth. I'm afraid this bony little devil following you is a member of a lunatic clan. Although you already know that you Akatsuki like to recruit some wandering ninjas, but you never thought that there would be people from the Bamboo clan under your command, aren't you afraid of letting these lunatics come to you?" For the land of water, the clan of lunatics who love to fight is famous in the 5 countries. For many people, it is a fearful and unavoidable existence. Now Chinyu brings this time bomb with him, which is beyond many people's expectations. After all, the history of the lunatic family is full of black material. Whether it's a bite back or a counterattack from the lunatic clan, it's not a good thing. Hee, Kimimaro is a good boy, don't get me wrong. Chinyu rubbed Kimimaro's head with a smile and did not continue. In the huge ninja world, among the 5 major countries, Kumogakure village still beats Konoha in the military strength index. Although it is not as good as in politics, wealth, etc., especially in talent cultivation. But the overall military strength is still very good. Moreover, Chinyu was unwilling to let go of the opportunity to enter Kumogakure village in vain. However, if it is too strong, it may be counterproductive. "Sister Fierce, will you let Uncle come in with me? He is good at sealing, maybe at that time, he can." Niyugito pleaded eagerly. However, as soon as the voice fell, he saw Samui take a step, performed a teleportation technique, came to her side, and interrupted her speech. "Yugito, remember that there are some things you can say, and some things you can't say casually." Samui looked at Chinyu indifferently and said, "Since the leader of Akatsuki intends to come to our Kumogakure village as a guest, of course I, Samui, will not be casual." An expulsion order was issued. "However, I hope you can take off your mask and verify that you were behind before you can let go." As soon as these words fell, the expression of Anbu ninja in the field couldn't help changing. But before they were identified, they were obviously very vigilant, staring straight at Chinyu. "Uncle." Niyugito was anxious, but she clearly knew the identity of Uchiha Chinyu. It's just that after getting along during this time, Niyugito did not show the ferocity and evil in the rumors. Instead, Niyugito felt that Chinyu still had a good smell. "Don't worry, it's normal to be vigilant." Chinyu smiled and rubbed Niyugito's head. Just as he was about to take off his cloak, the sound of breaking through the air came from all directions. 30 Anbu ninjas descended on the field like ghosts. At the same time, it was Kumogakure village, the elite Jonin who played a lot in the original work. Dodai who instructs Killer Bee Jinchuriki, Column Force Killer Bee and 4th generation Reikage to practice Thunder Plow Hot Knife. However, in the 3rd Ninja War, Dodai seems to be in his early 30s. "Mr. Dodai, why are you here?" Samui took the lead and couldn't help but say. "I just escorted the 4th generation out of the border, and suddenly I received a special request for support from Anbu, so I came here with someone. Dodai looked at Chinyu and Kimimaro and said. Looks like Akatsuki, the nosy Akatsuki from a Megakure village, escorted the Jinchuriki column force vessel here. What are you talking about? A Jinchuriki column force vessel? I have a name, my name is Niyugito. Niyugito stomped on Dodai's feet in a huff. The violent scene, even this elite ninja was suddenly unable to guard against it. After screaming in pain, he almost fell to the ground. However, in the face of this little episode, not only did the atmosphere not ease, but Samui stared straight at Chinyu. Chapter 233 The Trick of Deception. In the huge woods, apart from Dodai's painful cry, the atmosphere in the field undoubtedly became a bit strange. Samui looked at Chinyu, and suddenly said, I didn't expect that there are people in Akatsuki who are not surprised. In the face of this kind of battle, there is no panic at all. Are you not afraid? Afraid? Chinyu smiled playfully, but the nerves of Kimimaro and Niyugito standing beside him were undoubtedly tense, and their little faces became a little nervous. Hee, if there is no cooperative relationship, in the face of such a lineup, of course I will run away. Chinyu said with a dry smile. However, I also believe that Kumogakure village is not a guy who can't keep his word, even a cooperative one. Partners are not spared, and if it spreads out, it will also affect the Five Shadows Conference. Quote. Aren't you going to verify my identity? Don't waste your time. Chinyu opened the cloak with a smile. Quickly revealed a chiseled cheek and said, I'm Nagato, and I'm in charge of the escort mission this time. One of the three leaders of Akatsuki's team. Dodai glanced at Niyugito, then looked back at Chinyu and said, I'm a perceptive ninja, you don't mind me checking your chakra, right? Soon as these words fell, Kimimaro and Niyugito's expressions changed drastically. The transformation technique can change the appearance, but there is no way to change the chakra nature and breath in the body. Now Dodai suddenly staged this episode, obviously beyond their expectations. Thinking of Chinyu's sensitive identity, Niyugito regretted a little and insisted on keeping Chinyu in Kumogakure village. Of course there is no problem. Chinyu did not refuse. It is easier said than done to mix into a forbearance village, especially using this simple transformation technique. It is impossible to fool around. However, in order to deal with this scene, Chinyu made preparations in advance. That offends me. Dodai slammed his hands into a hand seal, and his powerful perception instantly swept across Chinyu's body. After more than 10 seconds, he opened his eyes and said. No response, he is not those people, and I had a relationship with that Nagato that day, so I remembered his breath, and it was not wrong. The strange scene made Niyugito and Kimimaro stunned. As a ninja, they clearly know that everyone's life breath is different. As a result, the nature and breath of chakra are also different. Although transformation technique can change the look, the breath is difficult to replace. However, if you can achieve the pervert's transformation technique of White Zetsu in the original work, you will also copy the breath on your body. That's another story. Seeing Dodai nodded again and again to confirm, the indifference on Samui's face faded a little or two. Don't mind, the Five Shadows meeting is about to be held, and Lord Rakage has just left the village. Now it's a sensitive period for major villages to be on guard, so don't mind. Little surprised by Rakage's departure, which was too coincidental. However, since God arranged it this way, Chinyu was even more interested in the mysterious village of Kumogakure. After all, in the original work, except for Konoha Shinobi Village, which was heavily portrayed, the other villages had only a vague outline. Hee, Samui, you're serious, we just take the liberty to interrupt. Chinyu said with a nonchalant smile. Samui didn't continue to speak politely, since after Dodai's repeated confirmation that there was no problem, he turned around and led the way. Kumogakure village after passing through many dark posts and many natural dangers. This is a village built on a mountain. Because it is located in a high mountain area, although there is no accumulation of lead clouds in the sky, there is still thunder from time to time. There are also all kinds of thunder like lightning splashes, and some thicker arcs of thunder or even more like a horse, and they are directly chopped from the sky. However, as soon as these thunders fell, they were quickly led away by the lightning protection equipment installed on the roofs of the buildings. Uncle, don't look at it, it's all normal. Thing, tell me quickly, how did you do what happened just now? Niyugito couldn't hold back, grabbed Chinyu's hand and asked softly while shaking. Chinyu rolled his eyes helplessly, and soon saw the four tails hidden in the cloak and quilt, which changed into hanging ornaments, blinked his eyes, and said using consciousness voice transmission, "Haha, little girl, I'm not like that stinky tortoise. We'll snooze." Quote. I am the Monkey King of Water Curtain Cave in Wagwoshan, and I am best at the art of change, except for Yoden lava style. Dead monkey, do you have to take me with you for bragging? You don't say that these are just tricks to deceive people. If you have the kind, go out and fight with me. Hearing the two-tailed beasts arguing directly in his mind, Chinyu rolled his eyes helplessly and cut off the connection. Only Niyugito, alone, was giggling non-stop. During this period of time, the rogue way of the two-tailed beasts completely subverted her cognition of the tailed beasts. Most importantly, Chinyu was really worried that the silly and sweet Niyugito was being led astray by the two-tailed beasts. Yugito, what are you laughing at? Samui frowned. Niyugito quickly reacted, covered his mouth and said, "No, I'm just happy to be back in the village." Niyugito, who was shaking his head and kept explaining, Samui didn't look into it, just gave Dodai a slight wink and said, "Nagato, you're staying here for a few days, and I'll take you to the place to stay. As for Yugito, you next, there are people from Anbu who will arrange accommodation for you." These words fell. Anbu behind Dodai immediately walked out of the four and walked towards Niyugito. "No, I don't want to be separated from Uncle Greasy. Don't I want to stay for a few days? Let me stay by Uncle Greasy." Niyugito hid behind Chinyu. This scene immediately made the four Anbu look at each other in dismay. Samui also seemed very surprised. According to Niyugito's character records in the intelligence, she was active by nature and liked to make a fool of herself. On the island of Turtle, she also had to toss. Anbu, who was stationed on Turtle Island, had a headache, and he did not suffer less from Niyugito. However, now it is so dependent on an outsider. This was too surprising for Samui, and at the same time, he was even more curious about Chinyu. Whether it is to establish Akatsuki, or to be able to escort Jinchuriki, column force vessel Niyugito to the village safely among the many assassinations. It's enough to be amazed. The distance plan will take some time to prepare. Samui, you will arrange a place for them to stay. Dodai suddenly said, Jinchuriki column. Niyugito will also leave it to you to take care of it for the time being. I'm afraid this is a bit out of place. Samui hesitated for a moment and said anxiously. Chapter 234. The beauty of the refugee camp is also a paradise. I believe they won't mind. Dodai looked at Chinyu and said. Samui Yuhi's lips parted slightly, and he was speechless for a moment. Haha, of course I wouldn't mind if there are beautiful women to accompany you. Chinyu smiled heartily. Yo, uncle, are you acting in your true colors, or pretend that you don't mind? Niyugito, seeing the kung fu of inserting needles, obviously did not learn less from the two-tailed beasts. Chinyu flicked her forehead with his hand and said, Ghost spirit, I won't call you for dinner next time. Yeah, don't call her, be less of a competitor. Obstruct us from the decisive battle, boss, I support your famous decision. A moment ago, the two-tailed beasts, who were still on the same front as Niyugito, threw away the morality in an instant. If it wasn't for his status, he would have a yawn now. No, uncle, I know wrong, you are the best uncle, the kindest, the most charming, the toughest, the most reliable, the most secure. Niyugito shook Chinyu's hand and said coquettishly, "At most, I will when you become a Jinchuriki column force. Whoever you say you want to beat up, I will beat whoever you want." Niyugito, who is regarded as the heir of the strongest tailed beast weapon of the family, actually said such cruel words for a meal, which subverted their cognition. "Okay, don't shake it. If I shake it again, my old bones will fall apart." Chinyu rolled his eyes helplessly. "You'd better lead the way, I think they're hungry too." After hesitating for a moment, Samui nodded and said, "Then you can come with me. If you mind, I will help you change places." As Samui, Chinyu and others left, Captain Anbu, who had been injured by Kimimaro, was the first to lose his temper. "Dodai-senpai, why did you keep these two Akatsuki people? We, Kumogakure village, don't have to treat them so seriously, right? Also, Lord Rakage has just left and brought a lot of elite forces to the Iron Country. In the past few days, we have to prepare for the transfer of Jinchuriki column forces. Let the two outsiders stay in the village, I'm afraid is it wrong?" As soon as these words came out, the eyes of the Anbu ninja present couldn't help but change. Only Dodai looked at the Anbu as usual and said, "Did you miss the most important point? The two of them are very strong, and just one child will defeat our Kumogakure Anbu elite." "Master Dodai, please forgive me." Captain Anbu's expression changed, and he hurriedly knelt on the ground to beg for mercy. Anbu ninjas behind him also knelt down. Seeing this scene, Dodai snorted coldly. "This time, things have been revealed like this. If the fourth generation of Rakage is here, you can't eat Kabuto and go. I'm afraid I'll be thrown into the hell of thunder for a good workout." Hearing the name of this thundering hell, a trace of panic flashed in the pupils of the Anbu ninjas present, even Captain Anbu was no exception. "However, don't worry, Lord Rakage doesn't have time to take care of this matter now," Dodai said coldly. "You also know that the power in the village is relatively weak now, although Rakage firmly believes that Uchiha Chinyu's group of sinners will not have the courage to attack our Kumogakure village. However, in order to prevent this from happening, before the Five Shadows meeting has been concluded, and the fourth generation of Rakage has not returned, these two Akatsuki members who know Niyugito's identity must stay in the village, in case they dare to report the situation of the two-tailed cat. Leaked, we also have hostages on our hands to punish Akatsuki." Quote. The slightly elusive voice reverberated in this rock. Captain Anbu's eyes brightened and he said anxiously, "Lord Dodai is really thoughtful. As long as someone is held hostage in the village, the Akatsuki people will also throw their hands at the rat, and they will not dare to disclose the details of the mission. After they are properly sealed, and then let them go, when the information leaks out, if the villages still think of other thoughts, it will be too late." "Yes, it's good for you to know that." Dodai nodded in satisfaction. However, as soon as the voice fell, he soon saw an Anbu ninja rushing over. After whispering a few words, Dodai's face couldn't help changing, and he shouted in a hurry, "You all come with me, there is an emergency. During this time, do your best to collect the whereabouts of Uchiha Chinyu's murderers." With the order falling, Dodai took the lead and rushed to the distant mountains and rocks. Dozens of other Anbu ninjas followed quickly. Uchiha Chinyu, who was being pursued in the man ninja world, has been invited into the village by them. I'm afraid they don't know the expression. When he brought Chinyu and others to the remote old residential area, Samui's expression changed slightly. The mysterious curse mark on his wrist flashed a purple thunder light, and he hurriedly looked at the distant mountain rock. "Did something happen? If it's inconvenient, you can deal with it first. We'll be here waiting for you to come back." Chinyu raised his brows. He felt a huge chakra leap just now. However, this power soon disappeared without a trace. Even Chinyu and the two big-tailed beasts had no way to capture the exact location. After a hint of hesitation flashed on Samui's face, he grabbed the mysterious spell seal on the back of his hand and said, "No need, if anything happens in Kumogakure village, I believe that Teacher Dodai can also handle it. Besides, this is the village of Kumogakure, so something can happen." Having said that, Samui looked at the end of the muddy road, which was a little dilapidated wooden hut, and said, "The front is where I live, you can follow quickly, if you mind, I will give it to you." Change place. Front. Chinyu followed the end of the road and looked at the dilapidated houses, which really made people's eyes shine. Just now, whether it was Anbu or Dodai, the attitude towards Samui was not very respectful, but at least it was respectful. Proves that Samui has some status in the village of Kumogakure. Moreover, an elite Jonin, even if he is not strong enough, would go out to perform a few tasks at will. I am afraid that he does not need to live in such a dilapidated house. The house in front of him made Chinyu feel like a refugee camp. What's wrong? This is a refugee camp. If you mind, I can help you change places. Samui was always paying attention to Chinyu's changes. In her eyes, she seemed to have expected all this. Abandoning these words, he turned around and left. "Do you mind?" Chinyu put his hand on Samui's shoulder genially and said, "With a great beauty to accompany you. The refugee camp is also a paradise, and I like it too, but I'll talk about changing the place later. You're refugee. There seems to be something wrong with the camp. Problem occurs." Samui was startled for a moment, then suddenly woke up and rushed out. Chapter 235 _ My baby soldier is stronger. "Uncle, are we going to join in the fun?" Niyugito asked curiously. "Of course." Chinyu nodded with a smile. As soon as he finished speaking, he performed the teleportation technique and disappeared out of thin air. Seeing this scene, Niyugito was stunned for a moment, then he pouted and stomped his feet and said, "Uncle, you are of the opposite sex and have no humanity. Bone brat, you too." The tender voice of complaining echoed in the sky, and Chinyu appeared outside the refugee camp while a smile appeared on the corner of Chinyu's mouth. The first to catch the eye were more than a dozen people, dressed in white Hagoromo clothes similar to the Otsutsuki clan, with sharp horns on their foreheads. Chinyu's brows couldn't help but raise his brows with this strange appearance, and he felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. "Jinmu, Silvermu, you dare to come here to make trouble again, aren't you afraid that the fourth generation of Lord Rakage will be blamed?" Samui rushed to the entrance of the camp first. However, before she could get close, the three Kumogakure stationed in front of the gate jumped to stop her. Raiden Thunder style ground walk. Samui was already prepared, and his hands quickly flipped, forming a series of magic marks, and the moment his feet landed, crackling thunder light splashed, turning into a frenzy and attacking the three Kumogakure head-on. The violent scene made the expressions of the three Kumogakure blocking them stagnate, obviously not expecting that Samui would be so fierce. After a little distraction, he wanted to withdraw and retreat. It was too late, and he was instantly hit by lightning. The only thing that made them glad was that this attack was not very powerful. It just caused their bodies to be paralyzed for a moment, and they recovered quickly. It's just that when the strong fight against each other, the outcome is just an instant, and when they react, Samui has passed through their line of defense and headed straight for the gate. Seeing this, Chinyu frowned and said, "Be careful." Bang! Inside the refugee camp, a young figure smashed through the dilapidated wooden door and flew out. Samui, who had just approached, was stunned at first, but subconsciously grabbed the child. However, Samui's complexion changed drastically as soon as he got into his arms. And the sharp horns on his forehead were exactly the same as the Kumogakure who was in the way just now. At this moment, Samui finally understood what happened to Chinyu's reminder just now. This horse is a child soldier, and it all depends on the pit. For a moment, the child soldier in his arms suddenly spit out a kunai from the sleeve, without any fancy, and stabbed directly into Samui's throat. The violent scene made Samui's nerves tense, and at the same time, he wanted to withdraw and retreat. It was only then that he suddenly discovered that his feet had been condensed by two large hands, which were tightly clasped together, unable to move at all. The only thing he could do was to watch the incoming kunai helplessly, his pupils rapidly dilating. Facing death for the first time, Samui couldn't help but close his eyes while his heart tightened. When the crisp metal collision sound came out suddenly, and there was the sound of crackling thunder arcs, which reverberated in the ears. The long-awaited death didn't come, and Samui couldn't wait to open his eyes. "Hey, Wowotu is $4 for $1, do you want it?" Chinyu was covered in lightning, and looked at Samui and smiled genially. "I don't know what you're talking about." Samui glanced at the child soldier whose eyes were almost split, and the three dumbfounded guards in front of the gate instantly understood something and said, "However, I still want to. Thank you very much." "Really?" Chinyu reluctantly touched the tip of his nose. "I'm afraid this is the legendary generation gap." Looking down in vain, he landed in the refugee camp and said with a smile, "However, I also want to thank you, these little bastards, for giving me a chance to be a hero to save the beauty. If you want to repay me, you can give me the opportunity to let me take you on a date." Smooth tongue. Samui was stunned at first, then glared at Chinyu and said, "I don't have the heart to mess with you now, and I have to save people." "Rescue." Chinyu smiled playfully, and the sound of thunder in his right hand suddenly made the child soldier let out a miserable cry and fainted directly on the ground. At the same time, kunai, who was caught at random, suddenly hurled towards the refugee camp. Boom! The wooden door was directly pierced, and at the same time that Kuuyu was inserted into the Jinchuriki column, sun, one after another rumbling sound, like a frenzy, directly detonated. Shikatsumyaku, Dead Bone Pulse, Dance of Early Jew. Bang bang bang. One after another, the bones were like spears, directly running through the entire refugee camp. Kumogakur, who were hiding inside, retreated one after another and scattered all around. Those cheeks that were originally hazy were now occupied by anger. Especially watching the dilapidated refugee camp collapsed, revealing the thin figure, it exudes endless murderous intent. Hee, it seems that there are quite a few guys who hide their heads and show their tails. Chinyu looked around and found that the characteristics of these people, like the Kumogakur stationed at the gate, and the baby soldiers, all had horns on their heads. If I remember correctly, this physical appearance is similar to the golden horns and silver horns of the famous rebellious ninjas in Kumogakur village. Samui, what are you doing? You dare to do something in the village. The shy boy who took the lead, with a trace of resentment flashing across his face, roared sharply. Why? Chinyu stopped Samui, who was about to explain, and smiled genially, because you guys deserve a beating. Isn't it better than a child soldier? If it can't be compared, I'll be more savage and take your garbage back. As soon as the words fell, Chinyu grabbed the unconscious baby soldier on the ground and threw it at the horned boy. The violent scene made him obviously unable to react. If it wasn't for the boy with silver who was beside him, if he had shot in time, he would have been slapped in the face. However, looking at the key link, he was stopped by the young man in auspicious cloud robe in front of him. A group of them were expelled by a stinky little devil. This is also a child soldier, the result of the battle, under the huge gap, like an invisible slap, slapped heavily on their faces. Immediately there was a burning sensation. Samui, he doesn't seem to be from our Kumogakur village. Do you dare to bring outsiders in without authorization, and do you still shoot at people of the same clan? Silver, playing the horned boy, spoke coldly. Compared with the golden boy next to him, they are obviously two people with different extreme personalities, giving people a calm and viper-like feeling. Jinmu, Silverwood, who is he? It has nothing to do with you, but you attacked our refugee camp while the fourth-generation Reikage left the village. Could it be that you really didn't put the fourth-generation Reikage's order on the ground? In the eyes, Samui shouted anxiously. Chinyu's shot just now was kind, and at the same time saved her and the refugee camp. But in the same village, no matter how big the infighting is, it is the same nostril that breathes out. As Chinyu's identity is obviously an outsider, once the elder advisor and others are alerted, it may be detrimental to Chinyu and others. It wasn't something Samui wanted to see. Chapter 236. I've been looking for an excuse for a long time to beat you. Hehe, Samui, don't use the 4 generations of Lord Rakage to oppress us. This refugee camp is full of refugees you took in. If it wasn't for you to say, they have huge potential and can become a powerful force in the village in the future. Fighting power, the elders will not open their eyes and close their eyes. Jin Mu, who was irritable, couldn't help roaring first. Now, I'll give you 2 choices. First, get out of the way, let's kill these little bastards, and at the same time, kill this big bastard. Second, we will kill you along with us. The awe-inspiring voice, like thunder, could not be dissipated. Samui's face changed. She knew very well the status of this group of people in Kumogakure village. Once it really starts, without the suppression of the 4 generations of Rakage, I am afraid that the entire village will be in chaos. By that time, she was a sinner. However, as Kaneki said, the children in this refugee camp are all refugees she rescued on the battlefield. Among them, many after training, also showed good ninjutsu talent. Whether it is out of kindness, or really to cultivate Kumogakure village, it will be the mainstay of Jinchuriki column-like combat power in the future. She must never let her go. Cough, I don't think she can hand over these little brats. Why don't we make a deal? You can try and vent your grievances on me. Chinyu smiled warmly and walked slowly. Jinmu was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect Chinyu to come forward. When he thought of the scene he encountered in the refugee camp just now, he said with a grim smile on his face. Good. Like thunder, which made the Kumogakure present happy. They knew very well that their own family, the physical pervert, had a one-on-one chance of winning. However, this thought just popped up in my mind, and the next moment I entered the scene, but it shook people's hearts. The crackling thunder light splashed down, and an illusory figure appeared in place without warning. That familiar genial smile was exactly the same as Chinyu, who was still stepping out by Samui's side. However, the former is an afterimage, while the latter is the real Uchiha Chinyu. At the moment of this lightning-like appearance, there was no trace of fancy, the right fist was entangled with thunder, and with the sound of the voice, it fell with a bang. Sorry, but I've been making excuses for a long time to beat you up. Boom. With one punch, like a dragon coming out of the abyss, endless thunderlight traverses out in a 10,000-point posture. Without any bells and whistles, he slammed into Jinmu's arms in full view. From a distance, Jinmu seemed to be struck by a thunderbolt, waiting to react. The body like an iron tower flew upside down like a cannonball, hitting the rocky mountain dozens of meters away. Boom. The huge impact force directly shattered the rocky mountain, and the ferocious crack centered on Jinmu's body quickly spread open. Once again, with the roaring cracking sound, the rocky mountain of more than 10 meters suddenly disintegrated. The violent scene, the rolled-up sand and dust, made Kumogakure who was present couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. His face was unbelievable, and he just couldn't react. Hehe, the shot was a bit heavier, but you all heard that, but he asked me to beat him. Chinyu patted the dust on his body, looked at Silverwood with a smile, and said, it's the first time I've seen him. Such a strange person actually likes being beaten up, this hobby is simply tisk-tisk. Looking at Chinyu, who was chatting and laughing, Kumogakure instantly reacted in a daze, and at the same time, his face flashed with anger, but he was stopped by Silver's wooden probe. Very well, Samui didn't expect that. When you see that the 4th generation of Rakage is not there, you have found a big backer to come back. It seems that you, who have never shown your ambitions, are thinking the same thing as our family. Silver smiled woodenly. Look at Samui's face changed suddenly, and he said anxiously, Silver, don't compare me with your family. I'm just doing my best to make Kumogakure village strong. Simple. Silver laughed jokingly. If your purpose is really pure, you wouldn't collect so many wandering ninjas, and now you are colluding with outsiders to attack your fellow villagers. I will definitely go to the elders to sue you, see how you explain it. Yes, we are all witnesses, let's see how you fight us alone. Kumogakure, who was standing around, looked at Chinyu with fear, but facing Samui, he didn't have the slightest fear at all, and called out to Silver. You. Samui suddenly became angry. Watching this crowd of people, he couldn't refute. An inexplicable grievance was born in my heart, and my eyes were full of Yuhi. From the very beginning, she knew very well that in any village, there was serious xenophobia. Especially the Kagaya clan where Kaneki and Silverwood were in front of him. However, Samui would do such a thing because she was also a refugee rescued by the village. It's just that it was the previous two-tailed person Jinchuriki column who rescued her, so there was a lot of pressure from public opinion, but Samui still survived well. Unfortunately, a few years ago, the two-tailed Jinchuriki column was in the war, because the seal was loosened and he was old, which caused the tailed beast to backlash and die. Reikage who arrived in time, but Samui lost this big backer. Her status as an outsider and her move to take in refugees were suppressed by hawks. Kagaya clan in front of them often attacked. If Reikage of the fourth generation hadn't taken action and said a few fair words, I'm afraid they wouldn't even have a place in the refugee camp. Oh, are you the descendant of that traitor? Chinyu suddenly gave a strange cry and said, let me think about it, they seem to be called Golden Horn Silver Horn. At that time, it seemed to be the meeting of the five shadows held in the first ninja war. They seemed to have killed Reikage and attacked the second-generation Hokage Senju Tobarama. Now it's the five shadows talks again. You suddenly made troubles in the village. Is this a plan to imitate your ancestors and plan to rebel? Or do you also have a strange habit of being abused? A small voice echoed in the ruins. Samui's face changed drastically, his nerves were tense, and he stared straight at Silverwood and the others. She knew very well that the clan in front of her could be called a barbarian just like the Bamboo clan. Now Chinyu is openly exposing the scar, and is still sprinkling salt on it. Undoubtedly, it was the tiger who broke ground and found its way to death. However, with the passage of time, none of the Kagaya clan members in the field were violent, their expressions turned pale, and they subconsciously looked at Silverwood beside them. Chapter 237-Medical Ninjutsu is my hobby. The strange scene added an inexplicable depression to the atmosphere in the field. Samui was startled for a moment, then saw Silverwood, and he put on a smile and said, you are such an interesting outsider. Our family is a law-abiding existence. Right now we won't hold you accountable, but next time we meet, I can't guarantee that Jinmu won't kill you. His mind is a little simpler, and you take advantage of it by surprise, but his strength is in Kumogakure village, but second only to Lord Reikage. I advise you to run away overnight, otherwise, the next time you meet, it will not be so simple. These words, Silverwood motioned to Kumogakure left and right, went to the ruins to pick up Goldwood, did not stay any longer, turned around and left. The rest of the Kumogakure witnessed this scene and quickly followed. However, the moment Silverwood passed by Niyugito's side, he paused for a while, took one more look, and then quickly left again. This attitude simply gives people a feeling that there is no silver 300 tails here, and I can't wait to fly away with wings. Uncle, I haven't started watching it yet, so why is it over? Niyugito grabbed Chinyu's arm with a pouting and said with a shake, but your punch just now is really relieved, that fierce young lady might be fascinated by it. Uncle you. Don't shake it, my whole body will be shaken by you. Chinyu broke free from Niyugito's hand, flicked her forehead directly, and said, "Then you are not attracted to me." "Bah, uncle, you are so stinky, I don't have it." Niyugito's cheeks turned slightly yuhi. After glaring at him, he walked quickly towards Samui. "Sister Da Fierce, I'll introduce you to my uncle. It looks a little greasy, but it's really reliable and has a sense of security." Samui was slightly startled, looked at Niyugito, who was as big as a little devil, his cheek was slightly yuhi, reached out and rubbed her head. "Sister, I just want to protect them now." Having said this, Samui suddenly woke up, and without thinking about it, he hurriedly rushed into the broken refugee camp. However, as soon as he set foot in the refugee camp, he saw the center surrounded by bones. Kimimaro stood quietly in it, and behind him were 7 or 8 girls and teenagers covered in scars. Above the age, it is about 4 or 5 years old, and the slightly older one is also 6 or 7 years old, and there is a teenager in his early 10 years. Seeing Samui's appearance, the 10-year-old boy at the head, with a happy expression on his face, immediately lost his strength, and the moment he lost the consciousness that he was struggling to support, he slammed heavily on the ground. Hot blood spattered, soaking Kimimaro's robes. "Brother Darui, are you all right?" "Sister Samui, hurry up and save Brother Darui. He was stabbed in the chest just now when he fought that group of bad guys to save us." The 2 5 or 6-year-old children, although they were also injured, were still bleeding out. However, for children who have been baptized on the battlefield and survived in blood and fire, their character is obviously more tenacious. Grabbed Samui's arm and hurriedly dragged him towards Darui. "Azai, Omoi, don't worry, I'm going to ask the elders now to send medical ninjas here." Samui was trying to persuade them to soothe their emotions, but when he saw Darui, the shocking expression after the injury, he became restless. In her eyes, the injuries on Darui's body were not just fatal to the chest. Many large arteries in the body were also deliberately cut off. Facing Jinmu and Silvermu brothers, he was able to survive, obviously because the two of them had a playful mentality and planned to let Darui bleed to death. If she didn't come back in time, I'm afraid Darui and the others would have died. However, facing this injury, Samui was also panicking. Their identities are not welcome in the village at all. Moreover, the Third Ninja World War has just come to an end, and many medical forces have been sent to the front line. At the same time, because of the ban on the second tail, the elder advisor will never give away the few remaining medical powers to outsiders. Feel the slight pulse on Darui's body and the faint breath he exhales. Samui's slender hands trembled slightly. In the face of people who can obviously be saved, they are helpless. That kind of sadness and helplessness, how helpless, I am afraid that only Samui knows. "Sister, I'm so sleepy, I want to sleep for a while." Darui slightly opened his heavy eyelids, as if babbling in a dream. Samui's expression was stagnant, his eyes were full of yuhi, he covered his mouth with his left hand, and shook his head again and again. This scene, but a few years ago, when she died in the Nijinchuiki column force, she heard it with her own ears. And this feeling, but I haven't thought about it until now. "Sorry, I seem to hear the beauty's request for help, you seem to be in need." Chinyu gently grabbed Samui's trembling right hand and said, "I mean medical ninja, don't think too far. The fatal injury is in the chest, the heart muscle is torn, the heart has abnormal heart rhythm, there are 18 wounds on the body surface, 13 of which are on the aorta. It is a miracle to not die." Chinyu held Samui's hand slightly. Then release it directly. At the same time, the injury was quickly checked. You are a medical ninja, can Darui still be saved?" Samui was startled. For this young man who calls himself Nagato, from the beginning of the strangeness, to the mystery, until now, the feeling to her is against the sky. Not only Grandmaster Raiden Thunder style but also the most difficult medical ninjutsu to learn, which is too shocking. Medical ninjutsu, I only have time to study one or two, to pass the time, it's just my hobby, although there are not many people who have been treated, but no one has ever died in my hands. Chin-Yu touched it. The tip of the nose said, however, if you continue to hold my hand, I can't guarantee him, he will lose too much blood and die. Yes, I'm sorry, you can let go and save people. As long as you can save Darui, I will promise you anything. Samui was anxious, although it was a bit like going to the hospital in a hurry. But at the moment, the only one who can rely on is Chin-Yu. However, as soon as they let go of their hands, Samui and the others saw Chin-Yu move. With his right hand on his waist, the 3 scrolls fell into his hands and spread out flat on the ground. With the sound of a bang, the mysterious magic seal spread rapidly, occupying the entire ground in an instant. At the same time, Lien Darui's body was quickly covered. Is this a medical ninjutsu? Samui was stunned. As an elite jonin, of course she had experienced the most peak medical ninjutsu in the village. If the entry-level medical ninjutsu is the technique of palm immortals, then the most difficult one is the medical ninjutsu that increases the healing effect with the help of the mark of the spell. And these medical ninjas, without exception, require several or even dozens of experienced medical ninjas to perform. Chapter 238 _ Heart-Rippling Look. In the shattered refugee camp, mysterious magic seals spread all around Darui. Chin-Yu did not pause for a moment, and cut off a small strand of hair on Darui's head with his backhand. When the hair fell on Darui's wound, Chin-Yu moved. The hands flew quickly, like a butterfly, a series of spells fell, and the tyrannical chakra exploded like a frenzy. The art of rejuvenation. The mysterious spells around him seemed to come alive. While entangling the scattered hair, they madly drilled into Darui's wound. The light green medical ninjutsu light instantly enveloped Darui's body. The chest that had been pierced directly, at a speed visible to the naked eye, the granulation tissue was wriggling and healed quickly. The wounds that were all over his body, except for the stab wound on his chest, recovered in an instant. Seeing this magical scene, the people present were stunned. Samui, who is the elite jonin of Kumogakure village, is more aware of what this scene means. If a team is equipped with a powerful medical ninja, in the process of performing the mission, it will definitely take a few more lives. After more than 10 minutes, the light on Darui dissipated. Except for the scars left on the chest that had been pierced, all the injuries on his body had long since disappeared. This is the blood-enhancing pill that I prepared, you can feed him one and that's it. Chin-Yu sighed in relief and threw a pill bottle to Samui. The profound arcane seals scattered on the ground also dissipated. Thank you so much. Samui returned to his senses, glanced gratefully, and then quickly walked towards Darui. As the gorilla Yuhi's pills were put into Darui's mouth, the pale complexion that had originally appeared gradually became bloody. Uncle, I'm hungry. Compared with Samui, who was shocked by Uchiha Chin-Yu's medical ninjutsu, Niyugito was more concerned about his belly. Seeing that Darui was slowing down in danger, he immediately grabbed Chin-Yu and shook his hand. The 2-tailed beasts, which had transformed into ornaments, also kept yawns and stared at Chin-Yu eagerly. Kimimaro didn't speak, but the longing in his eyes had betrayed the thoughts in his heart. Nagato, thank you for your help. After Samui repeatedly confirmed that Darui was okay, there was a hint of apology on his face. You guys are hungry all the way. However, this is just a refugee camp. Except for some milk that was squeezed this morning, if you need rations, I am afraid you have to go through the process and report to Dodai teacher first. Uncle, I feel that life in the future may not be easy. Niyugito pouted and said helplessly, why don't I go catch some game now, so that you can show your hands? Thinking of Chin-Yu's cooking skills, Niyugito has long been at odds with the 2-tailed beasts. From the very beginning, Niyugito's philosophy has become more simple now that he acts as a Jinchuriki column force for the village. The motto has already become stronger for the tiger's mouth. You girl is greedy. Chinyu raised his hand and flicked Niyugito's forehead. Looking at the shabby and flimsy kids, he couldn't help frowning. Various dishes that could be used flashed in his mind. Kumogakure village is located in the northeast corner of the ninja world. The climate is gloomy and cold, and the wind is blowing from time to time. Looking at the little boys in thin clothes and their snot hanging, Chinyu's mind finally settled on a special on dessert. Eating the staple food all the time has a great impact on the taste buds, but in this case of particularly large climate change, other things are needed to adjust. Moreover, this dessert can just use buffalo milk. During the battle just now, Chinyu also discovered that there are many useful main materials on the wild fields by the roadside. Nagato, look after them for me, and I'll go get you something to eat. Samui grabbed the shriveled purse by his waist. As a Jonin, you can get rewards through tasks, but if you have to take care of 7 or 8 little kids at the same time, that's a lot of expenses. It is still a period of war and chaos, and there are even fewer tasks that can be undertaken. It is already very good that you have not been starved to death. Leave your few copper plates to them. Buffalo milk is enough. Chinyu grabbed Samui's hand and said with a smile. You really don't need it. Samui was startled, his cheeks slightly lowered, and he said stubbornly, You don't need to worry, I still have some private money. Forget it, that little money, you keep it for marriage, send me the buffalo milk, and pick a few little kids for me. I found something good in the wild over there. Chinyu reluctantly glancing blankly, he raised his hand and flicked Samui's forehead. The sudden action made Samui startled, covering his forehead and staring blankly at Chinyu's back as he turned away. For a long time, because she was a disciple of the two-tailed Jinchuriki column force, and she was a refugee, she was always excluded. Later, because of the improvement of his strength, he was respected by others, but he gradually developed a cold and arrogant that was like 1,000 miles of rejection. No matter how good the ninja in the village, including Raikage and Killer Bee Jinchuriki, column force Killer Bee, no one dared to flick her forehead like this. Now, Chinyu's sudden action made her heart feel inexplicably rippling. I wrote it down, this is the expression of spring heart. Niyugito snickered coldly. Samui woke up in a hurry, and said with Yuhi on his cheeks, You bastard, what nonsense are you talking about? I don't know what spring heart rippling is, don't talk nonsense. Don't you know? Niyugito smiled slyly, took out a mirror, and gestured, You can see for yourself. You. Looking at the ghostly Niyugito, Samui glared at him and ran away. However, she was still a little uncertain about Chinyu, who was full of confidence and planned to show off her cooking skills. If it really doesn't work, she would rather borrow more money than treat Chinyu's life-saving grace. At least let him not hate this place and stay here for a few more days. Ah, what am I thinking? Samui couldn't help covering his hot cheeks, feeling Niyugito's thirsty eyes, and quickly turned around and walked towards the dilapidated warehouse behind. Along with Chinyu and others moving, the Kagaya clan who left the refugee camp also returned to the deserted station in Kumogakure village, which is slightly remote and close to the high mountains. Since the rebellion of the Golden Horn and Silver Horn troops, the Kagaya clan, known as the strongest clan in the Kumogakure village in the past, has also been gradually excluded and ended up in the situation of the Uchiha clan. However, unlike the Uchiha clan, this clan has always been violent in character and has a special physique. Likes to perform more difficult and dangerous tasks in the village, so his identity in Kumogakure village is a bit sensitive, but his status is still not low. Chapter 239 Many thanks to Uchiha Chinyu. Silver, you're finally back, how's the plan going? Just as Silverwood led the large army to the gate of the station, he saw an old man with a withered body and cheeks like tree bark, With the help of 3 guards, he walked out slowly. "Elder, why did you come out in person?" Silver Emu's expression froze, and he said in a hurry, "This time, we encountered an obstacle from a person from a foreign village, and even Jin Mu was caught off guard and was knocked unconscious." The old man in front of him was the most senior in their clan, and there were rumors that he was the younger brother of Jin Zhao and Silver Zhao. However, compared to the sturdy physiques of the two, the elder Mu Zhao in front of him has a developed mind and a body in the clan, but he does not appear to be outstanding. Therefore, he was excluded from the Battle of the Betrayal that day. At the same time, he learned that the Golden Horn and Silver Horn brothers led a large army and fell into the hands of Senju Tobarama. "If you turn it over, you will have the opportunity to continue to stay in the village." It can be said that the Kagaya clan can continue to exist in the ninja world, and the think tank Mu Zhao is indispensable. People from other villages. Elder Mu Zhao raised his brows and said solemnly, "Tell me all about it, and don't leave any link behind." Silver was stunned for a moment. It was the first time he saw this elder Mu Zhao. His expression was so solemn, and he didn't hide it. He quickly told everything about it. After a long time, elder Mu Zhao's brows became even tighter. He glanced at Jinmu, who was gradually waking up, and was about to have a violent attack, and shouted in a deep voice, "Okay, don't go crazy here. Who is the identity of the person?" "I have guessed." "Elder, do you know the origin of that person?" Jinmu rubbed his stuffy chest with a look of anger on his face, but he didn't dare to make trouble in front of the old man in front of him. He is in charge of many secrets of the family. In the Third Ninja War, after the disappearance of the third generation of Raikage, our family was rarely sent to the battlefield and was strictly monitored, but the characteristics of Yuhi's Black Cloak reminded me of the rise of a Megakure village in recent years. Akatsuki, I heard that it is also led by 3 little devils, saying that he advocates peace. This is simply a joke in front of a big country. Elder Mu Zhao finally sneered. "Not long ago, I bought a group of people to monitor Turtle Island. I thought that the 4th generation guy would be able to hold his breath, but I never thought that he would let Akatsuki's people do the work in private, and escort Jinchuriki column the utensils of power go back to the village, so as to hide people's eyes and ears." Quote. "Elder Mu Zhao, what do you mean? We can do the last round." Jinmu was startled for a while, and then became ecstatic. For their grumpy family, this moment they have been waiting for a long time. HMPH, this time is very coincidental. We really need to investigate it. We would like to thank you, Konoha missing Ninuchihh who has suddenly appeared in the ninja world recently, although you have just learned that trick, but this chance but once in a lifetime. If I miss it, I'm afraid I don't know when it will arrive. Elder Mu Zhao's withered bark-like cheek also showed a hint of joy. With the crutches in his hand, he stomped the ground heavily and said, "The ambitions of the eldest brother and the second brother that day were finally realized in my lifetime. Give me an order, and all the fighting forces in the clan are always ready and waiting for my order." "I know, Elder Mu Zhao," Jinmu and Silvermu responded in unison. As the most powerful beings among the younger generation of the clan, and the two with the appearance of the Golden Horn and the Silver Horn, they have been waiting for this moment for too long. If it wasn't for the smooth progress of the plan, they would be eager to fly and make a scene now. "Okay, don't be too happy. Now that the refugee camp has been destroyed, let's see the reaction from Dodai first. During this time, you must not go to the Akatsuki people again. As long as our plan is successful, don't speaking of a broken organization, even a big country is vulnerable in front of us." Elder Mu Zhao warned again in a deep voice. "Elder Mu Zhao, don't worry, we have waited for so long, and of course we won't let the plan fall short, but if he dares to hinder our plan, I will tear him up directly and let him understand the horror of our family," Jin Wood said grimly. "When I remembered, in front of everyone's eyes, I was knocked out by Chin Yu with a punch, and it felt not only hot on the cheeks, but also tingling in the chest. HMPH, that would be the best. If anyone dares to make a mistake at such a juncture and ruin my final plan, don't blame me for being ruthless. Elder Mu Jiao looked around coldly, and dropped the after saying this, he turned around and left. Watching the old figure leave, Jin Mu and Silver Mu looked at each other and turned to execute the order. Before the final planning time comes, they also need to consolidate the killer. Along with the Kagaya clan's eagerness to move, an inexplicable depressing atmosphere was also shrouded in the Kumogakure village. Anbu, who were hidden in the villages and around the refugee camp, were also recruited. For all this, Chinyu saw it in his eyes, but he didn't care at all. He doesn't like trouble, but that doesn't mean he's afraid of trouble. If trouble must come to the door, Chinyu doesn't mind shooting it back. Nagato, I've already brought the buffalo milk you need, but I'm worried that you won't be used to the taste. Why don't you let me buy some specialty products? Samui came back with 2 buckets of buffalo milk. Because Karui and others are still young and their bodies are in urgent need of nutritional development, Samui purchased 3 cows to raise them a few years ago. Although, the taste of this milk is a bit irritating, but for refugees such as Karui, it is not bad to be able to fill the stomach. But compared with Karui and the others, Chinyu and his party were not only guests, but also their savior. The thought of entertaining benefactors with such inferior things made Samui feel a little sad. You little girl, you are just worrying, help me get the wild ginger over there. Chinyu directly reached out and flicked Samui's forehead. This kind of action caught her off guard, and at the same time, she could only helplessly glare at Chinyu, and quickly went to perform the task. In this short half hour, Samui didn't know how many times Chinyu flicked his forehead. However, compared to the shyness at the beginning, there is an inexplicable warmth in my heart now. It felt like a layer of diaphragm between the two was gently broken by this finger. Chapter 240-Cantonese Special Dessert. Looking at this Chinyu who had no pretense at all and did not look at Karui and others with tinted glasses. The strong strength, the character of protecting the short, and the superb medical ninjutsu made Samui's mind flash a sales word from Niyugito. Sister Fierce, are you obsessed with the greasy uncle? He is quite safe, and his cooking skills are super good. Niyugito didn't know when he came over. He kept winking and said, why don't you marry the greasy uncle, elder sister, and let him stay in the village? I don't want to leave with the uncle. He said this, Niyugito's face flashed a trace of loss. With Samui, she is very clear about Chinyu's identity, but after this period of time, Niyugito is more aware of Chinyu's character. Compared with the ruthless and vicious people rumored in the ninja world, it is completely the opposite. You asked me to keep him. Samui Yuhi turned his face and rubbed Niyugito's head with his hand. You ghost, don't talk nonsense. I will find a way to let the 4th generation Lord Raikage try to keep him. After all, his own strength and medical ninjutsu are very strong. If he is willing to join our ninja village, maybe the 4th generation of Raikage will agree. No, uncle won't agree. Niyugito shook his head stubbornly with a slight yuhi in his eyes. Uncle will leave the village soon, and I believe that uncle is a good person. These inexplicable words, Niyugito carried the milk and walked towards Chinyu, leaving Samui with a stunned face. Does she mean that the 4th generation Lord Raikage will not agree, or that my charm is not enough to keep him? Samui glanced at Chinyu's busy figure, and Yuhi suddenly recovered his face, saying, Bah, what are you thinking about again? Samui, your life belongs to Kumogakure village, you can't think about anything, hurry up and return to your usual calm. As a ninja, only by removing the emotional color can you be stronger. While speaking to himself, Samui patted his cheek lightly with both hands. However, before she could regain her senses, she saw Chinyu move. The sealed scroll that was opened casually was scattered inside, and the kitchen utensils were readily available, which made her unable to help herself. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Chinyu had used his powerful fighting methods and medical ninjutsu to aim at this complete kitchen utensils. Samui really misunderstood that Chin-yu was a chef. Kaden, fire style, palm fire. Chin-yu put the huge iron pot on the fire, and under the hand seal with one hand, the flames converted into chakra burst out in an instant. The prepared milk was poured directly into the pot, and then Chin-yu covered it with an iron cover. At the same time, in another iron pot, Chin-yu picked an appropriate amount of wild ginger with his backhand and put it into a large pot. The thunder light in the right hand wrapped around the chakra knife, turning it into a vertical and horizontal thunderbolt, cutting the plump and juicy wild ginger directly into small pieces. When Zira's thunder light dissipated, Chin-yu put the chakra on the ground with his backhand, and the chakra in his right hand gathered crazily, instantly turning into a small Rasengan. If Namikaze Minato in the original book knew that this Rasengan turned out to be a blender and a juicer in Chin-yu's hands, I'm afraid he wouldn't know what to expect. It seems that the form of chakra has changed. With compression alone and the manipulation of chakra, the difficulty of ninjutsu has reached at least a level. If he can display A-level ninjutsu at will, if he is in the village, he can definitely become an elite. Jonin. Samui couldn't help but startled, just wondering why Chin-yu was performing such a complex ninjutsu. When she caught sight of it, her eyes almost split open. As the high-speed rotating Rasengan condensed, Chin-yu pressed down directly into the wild ginger in the basin. Under the frenzied rolling and frantic stirring, the ginger juice was backlogged like a frenzy, giving the air a fresh and spicy taste from ginger. "Uncle, that milk is starting to boil." Niyugito also looked around curiously. For her, since the first time she saw Chin-yu's cooking skills, the cooking process was like a conjuration. "Add some sugar to me." Chin-yu glanced back at the smoky milk and asked Niyugito to pour all the sugar that had already been prepared into the milk. The village of Kumogakure is located in the cold and high mountains. In addition to Samui's sensitive period, Karui and others have also been invaded by wind and cold. Although it can be adjusted with medicine, the best bitter medicine is also poisonous. Moreover, now that he can still source materials on the spot, Chin-yu thought of this flavor, the Zhangzong milk with the characteristics of Guangfu. The practice is simple, and it also has the effects of dispelling cold and promoting blood, nourishing beauty, relieving cough and sleeping. For women in special times, it has an unexpected effect. "Uncle, I have already stirred it." Niyugito wrinkled his nose and said, "However, although you have processed it, Uncle, there is still a little smell in it. Besides, there's nothing special about drinking milk, right?" Regarding Niyugito's question, Samui, who was curious, also brought Karui and the others over. However, the two-tailed beasts that became ornaments hanging around Chin-yu's neck, if it wasn't because of his status, he would have wanted to slap Niyugito's mouth now. In their eyes, the delicacies made by Chin-yu can never be measured by common sense, let alone question their rice masters. "Hee, this milk looks very ordinary, but this is the key now. Get the wild anko that was boiled just now." Chin-yu laughed dryly and said, Wait a moment, if you don't rush to eat, I will write you a service letter." Quote. "Really?" Niyugito wrinkled his nose and said, "Uncle, if it's really as amazing as you said, I won't call you greasy uncle in the future, and I'll find a sales pitch for you to end your singleness as soon as possible." Looking at the ghost-like Niyugito, Chin-yu reluctantly took the anko in the pot and scattered it evenly into the ginger juice. Without any pause, he grabbed the edge of the hot pot with one hand and poured the hot milk directly into the ginger juice and anko under the shocked gaze of everyone. To make this Cantonese specialty dessert well, the most important thing is to grasp the temperature of the milk, the concentration of the ginger juice, and the baking time. There is a little error in these three links, and the taste of Zhangzhuang milk is not honest enough. The ginger juice is too strong and the milk taste is not enough, so it cannot be served on the table. Along with the hot milk, it fell into the large basin, mixed with ginger juice and anko. A peculiar smell of ginger milk rushed towards him. Just as Niyugito and the others took a deep breath greedily, Chinyu closed the lid neatly. Seeing this scene, Niyugito and others were suddenly unhappy. Uncle, are you angry with me? I didn't mean to question you just now.